Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to All-Star Night here for the G4 Sim Racing Series Season 2 for the Vintage Cup Series 87 cars. However, we're getting ready for the precursor race before these 87 drivers take to the racetrack, as several drivers have hopped into super late models here this evening to get ready for a 50-lap shootout at Eldora Speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCrory. And Anthony, obviously, the big question here tonight are what are the 87 cars going to look like when they slip and slide around this dirt track? But first, these drivers get a little bit of an idea of what Eldora might possibly bring to the table in these cars that are designed for dirt racing.
It's going to be pretty important for these drivers to get a little bit of time under their belts to see what the track conditions are going to be like for when they step into the much bigger, more powerful cars. These cars are designed for dirt racing. The 87s, as you mentioned, not really meant to be on dirt, but these ones, they've got the aerodynamics and the setups for it. Have to see what these drivers can do, as many of these drivers are going to be in the 87s later on tonight. We've already had a 358 block run. Those drivers put on a whale of a show tonight. Now our second pre-race for our main event tonight, and a 50-lap race at Eldora. I mean, we're going to see some slipping and sliding, some beating and banging, but that's part of All-Star Weekend. No points are on the line, so these drivers really get to see what they're all about. And it's going to be kind of like the truck race that we saw earlier in the season, that special event one-off that we had at Bristol Dirt with the trucks. So can't wait to see another night of high-octane dirt racing.
When we talked last week about drivers particularly that might be favorites coming into our main event race here tonight later on this evening, a couple of names that jumped up to mind: Gerald Campbell, Michael Blanton, obviously. We're going to be seeing some of those guys here tonight. I mean, with this race, do we kind of get a little bit of insider scoop of who some of the other front runners might possibly be later on this evening?
They're definitely going to give us a bit of an idea of some of the sleepers that we might not know about. Certainly the ones that we've mentioned are the ones to look out for. We're going to find out. Green flag's in the air, and already we got Bo Carrow, I believe, that's in the wall. Obviously, that's Richard Carrow in the 42 that's gone sliding up into the wall at the start of the race. Hadn't even gotten across the line yet. Already crabbing down the front straightaway is the 42. Or make that it's the 42 machine of Carrow.
That was a very quick caution that I think started up around the third or fourth positions. Things got really stacked up from Gerald Campbell on back. They were almost 4 wide, and I think that might have been what led to this early yellow flag.
They certainly did get a little bit stacked up on the outside behind the 29 of Dinovich. Kind of didn't know when to go, and then everyone piled in. Unfortunately, Carrow's the one that got the worst out of it, as he got shot straight into the outside wall. Not much he could have done, really. It was 3 wide at that point. I think he was just trying to get power down and unfortunately got clipped. I think that was the 3 of Bland that clipped him, and already we've got a car facing the wrong direction.
A break there for Richard Carrow, who I believe rolled off from the 5th position here tonight, 5th or 7th, either 3rd or 4th on that inside line. And this is going to, at least for the moment, have him trapped a lap down, as he didn't get the car, it looks like, refired until the pace truck went around him. Got another car that's actually going around right now. I believe that might possibly have been the 12 machine of Jake Houndshell. Now he's actually going to let the pace car pass him by. The 42 of Richard Carrow is actually going to go around the pace car. So not certain what's going on here with this 12 of Jake Houndshell, but they are doubling up. We're going to get ready to go back green flag racing here momentarily. And obviously, as we can see there by our ticker, the caution laps count here tonight. So it actually ticks away some laps that some of these drivers could utilize to try and take this race lead away.
Most of the time in dirt racing, you'll see where they don't tick away, and that's why this is something a bit significant. The race will effectively be shorter because of it, and that does play a lot into to the outcome of the race. Now, this is not too abnormal for these guys, because obviously that they come from a series where the laps count, no matter if they're under green or under yellow, so keeping the consistency there so these drivers don't get confused. However, if you're going for a win and you're on dirt, one of the things that some of these dirt drivers are known for is being able to run all the laps wide open. They're not going to be able to do that, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of strategies these guys pull out as a result of that. They doubled up a little bit early. We're about ready to go back to green now. the pace truck has turned off its lights. We are going to go green on lap 7 of 50, so already almost a fifth of the way through the race, and Cooper Johnson will be restarting on the front row on the inside alongside, I believe that'd be Travis Smith. So interesting to see what these two can do. We haven't really get to see what these drivers can do under green flag yet, but we're about to find out. Pace truck's in.
Travis Smith gets to control the acceleration point. He went as soon as that pace car hit pit road. He opens up about 2 car lengths back to Cooper Johnson, who had his hands full with that machine. That brings Gerald Campbell onto his back bumper for second place.
They are sideways, very sideways in the back of the field between the 3 and the 29 of Dinovich. Oh, Blanton into the wall. Let me make that Dinovich into the wall as Blanton tries to go to the inside. Blanton's one of those drivers who was really the king of the dirt at Bristol during the truck event. Is going towards the front of the field, trying to get up there as quick as he possibly can. Although we were talking about some of the drivers that might show that they got a little bit more dirt track experience than we might have thought about. Gerald Campbell's another one of those drivers that we mentioned that was going to be good on the dirt. However, Cooper Johnson, not so much. Cooper Johnson was having a bit of a struggle during the Truck Series race. He's now running up here in second place, but no one has been able to touch Travis Smith up at the front of the field as of yet, because he's pulled out about a 1.5-second gap, and it continues to grow for that machine.
Washing out, Dallas Myhand has gone around. Saw some contact between Seth Harrelson and Jason Hounshell. Don't know if they might have actually contributed to the 41 spinning or not. Caution's going to fly for the second time here tonight at Eldora.
That car looks very poorly. The back end does not look like it's very healthy in any sense. I've noticed a lot of these drivers, when they go into the turns, they've been really on the edge of spinning around, completely around. And
oh, wow.
yeah, that one of them went completely over around. The 12
That was
did.
Jake Hounshell. Got a little help from behind by Seth Harrelson and then got spun down right in front of the 41 of Dallas Myhand.
And that is another driver facing the wrong direction, facing the wrong orientation. Don't want to have that happen either. These cars, I don't believe that they have fast repairs, so I'm not really sure if he's going to be able to get back going the right way if he has something bad or if he can get that back onto pit road and get out in a reasonable amount of time. But wow, that was a hard hit that he took.
Actually, correction on my part. Jake Hounshell is driving the 12 on our telemetry, the iRacing machine. There's another 12 out there. That is Christopher Morse Jr. in the Mobile 112 car that actually went up and over. So we've got 2 12 machines out there on the track, and Morse was the one that went onto his lid, and that's where it actually came to rest. Never got back on his wheels, had to teleport to pit road.
And that's where he sits still at the moment. Hasn't gotten back going yet. No indication of going back out. These guys are doubling up behind, though, getting ready to set them back under green for lap 14 of 50. Travis Smith again will lead us down to the green flag. No one's been able to touch him on the restart so far, and no one's going to do it here as green flag's back out, and it got a whale of a restart behind him. Gerald Campbell's going to fall into second place. Cooper Johnson's going to fall into third, but Johnson not content to run there, trying to get to the inside. Can't quite get there. Here comes Blanton on the outside.
Michael Blanton in that white, purple, and black number 3. The stars and stripes on the late model of his up against the wall. Whoa! Look at him have to counter steer that thing, as I think he thought it was going to spin on him on corner entry.
Yeah, there's a lot of spinning going on. He's made contact with Richard Carrow again in the 42. Richard Carrow's been able to put together a recovery drive. I do believe that they have a fast repair. That car looks so much better than it did a few laps ago. Actually trying to get into the 5th place position. He was dead last at the start of the race. So good recovery drive going on right now. He's the only one that's right against the inside wall, so he's found some grip down there. That might be the only place that there will be grip in a few moments, because as we've seen,
Gerald Campbell! The nose of Cooper Johnson, another car up and in the air. I believe that's Dinovich in the 29. He comes to rest on his roof.
And the 00 of Jason Hounshell's also found his way spun around the wrong direction in that same turn as all the chaos happening. A lot of things happening on lap 17, and another car goes end over end.
That started at the 2nd position contact between the 13 of Campbell and the 7 of Cooper Johnson. Dinovich, who was running, I believe, 4th that time across the start-finish line, gets the worst end of it, though. Nowhere to go as all the cars involved migrated up to the high line which he was in. Michael Blanton also got a piece, and somebody, might have been the 9 of Seth Harrelson, actually drove underneath the car that was airborne.
That was Harrelson. I think there was a little bit of contact. That's actually what drove the 29 of Dinovich up into the catch fence, was that little bit of contact that he got from the 9. So there's a cavalcade of things that happened on the outside line, and that is probably why Carrow was running on the inside line. He didn't want to be in any part of that. That was for second place when that happened. And man, there's a lot of wrecked cars, and Dinovich joins Christopher Morse Jr. on pit road as a car not going anywhere at the moment.
Richard Carrow, this is going to put him up into the second position, and as you mentioned, brought out the first caution of the evening here tonight, but has been running down that inside line where nobody else seems to want to run, so he's having all the benefit of that grip down there. Track not really rubbered in. It's obviously the shorter way around the racetrack as well, so we'll see what he's going to be able to do here with Travis Smith, who's going to force the 42 to be on the outside of the front row for this restart. Cooper Johnson, Michael Blanton, and Zach Onsen. First time we mentioned him tonight. He's going to be completing the top 5. Lights should be out atop the pace truck. He's on pit road. Green flag back in the air. 30 laps to go here at Eldora.
Carrow did not get a good restart. Lit up the back end and almost went around in a very similar fashion that he did on lap 1. Continues to go the right direction, now running second place, and now he's trying to dip down to the inside, although somebody else is trying to go down that same route. That would be the 7 of Johnson trying to find his way to the inside. Now battle for the lead. Carrow to the inside, trying to hold along. Can't do it. Smith again with a good exit out of the turn. Johnson behind him tags the wall. Now Blanton to the inside of the racetrack trying to find grip.
Caution out as Dinovich in the 29 comes to a stop. Jason Hounshaw was the driver facing the wrong direction, and Gerald Campbell was rather slow leaving the scene of the incident, so he might have been involved as well.
This is our third yellow of the evening. This one happened kind of a very similar way that we've seen so far tonight. The 13 of Campbell again finds himself going the wrong direction after contact with the 12 of Hounshaw.
And it looks like he actually might have clipped the wall jutting out there into turn 1 with the left front of his machine, causing him to go straight up into the 12 of Hounshaw, and nowhere for Jason Hounshaw in the 00 to be able to go.
He has. He's indeed hit the inside wall and sent his car out to the outside. There's not a whole lot of room for error. You expect there would be with how wide the track is, but something like that will catch you out, and that just sent a lot of drivers up into the or towards the fence, and it's such a simple mistake, and I don't think we've seen somebody hit the inside wall of a racetrack in a long time. But that first turn in turn 1, the wall kind of does jet out a little bit, so you might turn in a little bit too early. But man, hard hit for both of them, and that purple machine also came into it. I believe that was the 77 of Ganger that came in.
Going to be a total of 11 of our 13 drivers that will be on the lead lap when we go back green. Kevin Dinovich has returned to the track, but he's 4 laps down. Christopher Morse Jr. still sits on pit road, 16 laps down. Looks like he will probably not be returning to the track here for the completion of this super late model event. Green flag back in the air here for Travis Smith, and ooh, they're stacked up behind. Cooper Johnson, Michael Blanton, both kind of spinning the tires, and they were almost 3 wide there coming to the start-finish line.
And there's a lot of drivers back there around Campbell that are also having a bit of a struggle at the moment. They were 3 wide, now settle it back out to single file. Towards the front, you got Zach Onsen battling with Cooper Johnson, who's also battling with Michael Blanton as they get into a bit of a scuffle. There was some contact between all 3 of these drivers, and at the front, you've got a battle for the lead. Carrow to the inside of Smith trying to get around.
Carrow, Travis Smith for the lead. 3-way battle for third. Contact. Blanton almost goes around, and all of a sudden, Dallas Myhan says, hello, I want to play.
It's a 4-way fight now for third place. Whoa, there's some contact, and now the 41's gone spinning. So too has the 51 on the back straightaway. Caution flags yet again. This time, a battle for the final podium spot has ended up in heartbreak for Zach Onsen.
Blanton, and Myhan, the 3 involved in that one after things got really stacked up from the 3rd position on back. 5th caution of the night gonna fly, and it's gonna set us up with a restart. Less than 20 laps to go. Let's go back and see what happened off of turn 2.
I think it was just hard battling this. trying to get that third place position, and the ran out of room on the racetrack. The outside line kind of is the way to go for a lot of these drivers. As you see, is just, I think my hand might have run into Onsen, and that's what started everything and took him and the three down to the inside wall of Blanton. So too did Onsen.
Onsen was collected up in that not once but twice. He got involved in getting spun off the corner, had the thing practically saved, and then got clipped in the right rear quarter panel by, I think it was Dallas Myhan, which finished him spinning him around. And he, unfortunately as well, was the last driver to leave the scene of the incident as well, was facing the wrong way, had to wait for oncoming traffic to go by. And so he is going to be back in the 9th position on this restart. Looks like the three of Michael Blanton came down pit road, took on his fast repairs. So it looks like right now we have a total of 3 drivers that are out there on a fast repair. Richard Carrow in the 42, Gerald Campbell in the 13, and now Michael Blanton in the 3 machine.
Some gamesmanship between Johnson and Harrelson on the second line there. I think Harrelson is letting Johnson know that he was there. I have to see if that carries over into the race. Green flag back out. Travis Smith again gets a great restart. No one's been able to challenge him yet for the lead, but Carroll's trying. Harrelson gets a bit sideways behind everybody, and they stack up a bit, but now single file. To the inside goes Carrow. Can he get anything on Travis Smith? He hasn't been able to do it yet. Now alongside, he might have something this time.
He's certainly really good on the entrance to the corner, but then Travis Smith's able to get back to the throttle and straighten it on the straightaway off of 2 and 4. That's where you see him gain his time. Carrow not going to give up, though. Doggedly on that inside line. Slides up behind about maybe 2 car lengths off corner exit.
He's got to be able to get the speed, the momentum out of the turns, and that's where Smith is really excelling. He's slower into the turns, but you can see the difference. Right now, Smith opening up almost a second gap, and it's only been a couple of laps, and the only thing that is different between these two drivers is the line that they're running now. Carrow, realizing that his line isn't working, goes to the outside to try to make up ground, and he is by fractions of a second, but he is getting closer.
Caution is out, and I thought it might have been for the spinning machine of Jake Hounshell, but actually it looks like it's Dallas Myhand who also spun, bringing out this yellow flag. Now, Jake Hounshell did indeed spin under that run, but his spin did not bring out the yellow flag. Myhand, however, that car looked like it took a huge hit, as I saw some engine smoke billowing from underneath the nose of that machine.
And this is, I think, all his doing. I don't think anybody touched him. I think he might have hit the inside wall from what I'm seeing, and that was a hard shot if he did indeed do so.
Saw there, he got into the wall heading into turn 3, so that messed up his line already. Overcorrects it off of 4, and hard impact right down to that Eldora Speedway logoed area of the wall. Nose first, and that could be evening over here for Dallas Myhan in the 41 machine as we're closing in on 10 laps to go. Yeah, he's been on pit road for 2 laps at least, so it looks like he, along with Kevin Dinovich and Christopher Morse Jr., they will not be in the conversation for tonight's victory in the Super Late Models.
Also want to mention that Jake Hounshell went around that time, and I think you mentioned that. He was also spun around before the spin down into the inside wall from Dallas Myhan, so a bunch of things happened on that last time, but none of them were connected, so have to wait and see if they can figure out what they're going to do for the main event, the 87s, and that is going to be crucial for them. They got some really good seat time in these cars to make sure that they know how to best prepare themselves for that race, as they unfortunately make an early exit, but now they can get to work on the 87s. Again, on that outside line, Harrelson and Johnson, again, getting close to each other. Not sure what, if that's just saying, hey, I'm here, you better get around me, or you're going to fight me to get around, but green flag is out. And again, Smith, no one been able to challenge him on the restart, but now Carrow up on the outside line, doesn't really fancy the inside line now. Side by side through turn 3, there's no contact, almost some contact, as they're still almost dead even on speed.
Rides it up off the corner, almost into the left rear quarter panel of Travis Smith. Kind of looks like he might be moving Smith up the racetrack, trying to take that middle line. Oh, contact behind! Seth Harrelson spinning around. Zach Onsen pounds the inside wall. It was Cooper Johnson and Seth Harrelson with the initial contact off of turn 2. Caution's going to fly yet again. 10 laps to go here at Eldora.
And you'll never guess where Zach Onsen managed to find himself. He ended up getting stuck in the catch fence.
And he has now retired out of the race. We'll take a look at that here as he had a lot of speed heading down towards the inside. There's the contact as Harrelson kind of crowds Cooper Johnson up into the wall. Oh, wow. Just kind of rode those tire barriers down there up into the catch fence, did Zach Onson.
Otherwise, he would have been able to probably continue on, but that shot, he turned dead left. I want to imagine that he got hit on that car in a certain way, and that just sent him down and hit the one part of the tire barrier. And these cars are low to the ground. There's not a whole lot of ground clearance between the front end and the ground, but he found the one spot on the tire barrier where his wheel grabbed it and sent him up. And man, hard shot into the outside. He was one of the fastest drivers that we'd seen all night. Ends up finding the one spot you don't want to.
There was a look at it firsthand from inside the cockpit. The 51, tough break there for Zach Onson, who had already taken on his faster pair. I believe it was under the last caution, so that is his evening over. He's going to go to the garage area, joining Kevin Dinovich. Dallas Myhan still sits on pit road, along with Christopher Morse Jr., so 9 drivers still standing with a shot of winning this race. And Travis Smith, who had to hold off a hard-charging Richard Carrow, going to have to do it for another 7 circuits. Going to be 7 laps to go when they take the green flag, this time by.
Smith on the inside gets a good jump, green flag back in the air, and that is what he's had to do all race long in order to stay, but there's crashing behind them. I think that was Harrelson and maybe one of the Houndshells, Jake Houndshell, I believe. They're both stuck on the inside line. No yellow flag. We still grace.
Both down on the inside wall, one upside down, and Jake Houndshell. He's now teleported to pit road. Carroll put Travis Smith maybe up into the wall there going into 3. Richard Carrow to the point. Smith looks to cross over. 5 laps to go as they're going to hit the stripe.
First time tonight a lead change happens, and it happens well late into the game. Lap 45 of 50, coming down the back straightaway down through turn 3. Now Carrow's opening out at a gap. It seems like he was able to really show what he had as they now go down the back straightaway as they took the 46th lap. It's now opening up a gap. I think that Travis Smith might have used up everything he had on the last few laps.
Well, Travis Smith and Richard Carrow have had this race by polar opposites. Smith started out front, has led up to this point. Richard Carrow was the first caution and had to work his way from the back to the front. Has his only faster pair already used up, but he is out in, I'll put this in air quotes, clean air, 3 laps to go, and has opened up 7/10 of a second now back to the 818.
And I don't think that Smith has been able to find his groove ever since losing the lead. It does look to me that he's used up something, or maybe he has some damage from the contact that he sustained while battling with Carrow, but whatever the case is, not catching up is coming down to the white flag in a couple of moments. This could be Carrow's race to lose if he takes the white flag this time around, and he will indeed do so. We got 1 lap on the green.
Got a spinner on the back straightaway. Caution is going to fly. We're going to overtime as Jake Houndshell, make that Jason Houndshell, slides into the vicinity and hits the spun out Gerald Campbell.
That was so close for Carrow. He almost got to the line, but now he's got to battle. He's got to defend Smith at the last second, a buzzer beater for that yellow flag that came out. And that it was not well timed. If you're Richard Carrow, you did not want to see that come out.
We'll go back and look at the replay, but I want to weigh in on, I don't know if there was contact between Richard Carrow and Travis Smith when Smith lost the lead, or if Smith just messed up his entry into turn 1. But I guarantee you, if there was contact, they say about payback, well, I'm not so certain the 818 might not return the favor here on this overtime restart.
Short tracks breed short tempers, and especially when you're on dirt, it's a lot easier to slide into somebody, as it were. So have to wait and see on the restart. But that shot that Campbell took after the fact from the 00, that was the dagger, so to say, as he took the shot and that wiped off the front end of that car. And I've been able to really get that car back going the right direction ever since being involved in that first incident he was in. This makes now 3 that the 13 finds himself in. So thankfully it's at the end of the race, but we got a battle to settle out as they grid up. Carrow versus Smith versus Blanton versus Johnson. Who takes the checkered flag? We've been talking about Carrow and Smith the whole night. We got a couple other drivers that show pace. Who can do it? 2 laps to go.
And they get around to the white flag is the question, and they stack up. That's Cooper Johnson into the wall. He keeps it straight. We keep going. It's going to be Blanton driving to the second position. Watch out for that 3 machine.
We were talking about at the truck race how Blanton was one of the ones to look for during the dirt races, and right now we're seeing some of it as now he powers his way into second place and takes a commanding second place. White flag's been taken by Carrow. Can he get back to the line, the leader? Looks like it's his race to lose now.
Three-way battle for second between Blanton, Campbell, and Smith. This all going on nearly 0.8 of a second behind Richard Carrow. Run out the first caution, but he'll take the checkered here tonight in the super late model event here tonight at the Rumble Eldora.
And Blanton does get second place over Travis Smith right at the end of the race. So give credit to Michael Blanton for a good recovery drive after starting mid-pack and getting his way up to the lead. Travis Smith, a heartbreak. He started first, went all the way around almost all 50 circuits in the lead, and then at the last moment lost the lead and was never able to fully recover from it as Richard Carrow, a man who found himself not upside down, but facing the wrong direction at the beginning of the race, now is going to victory lane. You can't even script something like that.
Richard Carrow, a driver in the 87 series, has only picked up one top 10 in his starts this season. I'm pretty certain he was not a driver that we had in list of drivers to watch, and we talked about this event last week. I think that we have to kind of amend our lists here of drivers to watch, though, because Richard Carrow, a back-to-front drive, certainly putting on a spectacle here tonight, and we'll have to see if he's going to be able to translate that over to the 87 cars.
Hopefully he can do so, because they have to jump in them pretty quickly, and it's a big difference between these cars and those cars. We've seen the 87s all season long, how they look like they're on dirt, even if they're on asphalt. It's going to be the same thing here, except this time they are actually on dirt. So that's going to be one heck of a show, and can't wait to watch these guys wheel it around the racetrack.
Absolutely. So we now have concluded our preliminary races, if you will. These drivers now getting set to hop into the 87 cars, and it's going to really be interesting to see if there's any similarities or huge differences between what we just saw with these super late models and the 87 cars. A couple of things I'm going to be wanting to talk about when we get to the 87 segment of tonight's Rumble at Eldora is a lot of the wheel motion that we saw when we were inside the cockpits of a number of these drivers here this evening, but we'll get to that momentarily. Let's see if we can talk with a few of the drivers that we will be seeing later on in the 87 cars and who finished in the top 3 here tonight. Let's kick things off with Travis Smith, the pole sitter, third place finisher here tonight with the super late models. Hey Travis, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I sure do. How's it going today?
Well, it's going good for us. We just saw a heck of a dirt race, but you were in the middle of all that battle for the win, the closing stages, led a majority of it, but then when you got back there in second position, what was it that you were lacking there? Was the track just too rubbered up to be able to reel the 42 back in?
Yeah, I mean, once it gets real slicked off there, it really becomes kind of a throttle game. And in all reality, he was kind of on me the whole race. Made a couple mistakes, which gave me the opportunity to check out. But I mean, he had my number, and then once that last restart came, honestly, starting on that outside didn't help me out at all.
Yeah, we did see a lot of battling going on to lead the race, and you did seem that you were able to make that outside line work, but your restarts were where you were excelling in. What does it take at a track like this to get the best restart possible in order to try and get ahead of all of the other competitors?
Well, especially in a high horsepower car like that, it's a lot of throttle control. I mean, a lot of guys, you see that green flag and you just want to put the foot to the floor, but you really can't. I mean, it is a lot of it's a tire slip, and if you get inside that black slick, it's never gonna end up well for you.
Now, Travis, obviously we're going to be seeing you in a few moments climbing into the 87 car. We've not seen you here in the 87 Cup Series drive this season in 87 car. How much experience do you have in the 87 machines here at Dirt Track Racing, and how much similarities or differences are there going to be between those cars and the super late models you just drove?
I don't have a whole ton of experience in them. I dabble in them here and there. But no, I kind of I stick around, like the dirt street stocks, the dirt 358s. But these cars will compare a lot with the lack of grip to the super late models. There isn't a lot of grip out here. It's a lot of half throttle game. But as for like front end grip, these cars don't really have much. So it's pretty much like driving on ice. with the whole car, whereas the super lates kind of feel like you're driving on ice with the rear tires, but you have the front tires grip pretty good.
All right, well, we're going to let you get at it here, Travis. I know that you're eager to jump into that 87 car to get ready for tonight's main event here in the Rumble at Eldora. But before you go, we're going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
First, I gotta thank Hijinx Clothing, Chris Morse for putting on this sweet little series they got going on here. So Hijinx Clothing, Napa Auto Parts, Weeby Racing. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
That is Travis Smith. He's going to bring it home third place here tonight with the super late models. We'll see if maybe he's going to be able to pick up the victory later on here tonight with the 87 cars. Best of luck, Travis, and congrats on the great run here tonight.
Hey, thank you guys. Have a good night.
And let's see if we can now get our second place finisher, Michael Blanton. Hey, Michael, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you, buddy. What's going on?
Well, man, when we saw back in the special event truck race earlier on this year, what you were able to bring to the table, we definitely had you pegged as one to watch here tonight. Not only here with the super late models, but obviously later on with the 87 cars as well. Green, white, checkered, you shot your way up to second place. What little more did you need to be able to get that 42 in the final closing stages?
I don't know if I could have got them. It's been so long since I had been in a super late model. I forgot how touchy they were, and I struggled early. Be honest with you, when I put it into that fast repair, I thought I was pretty much done. I was actually really surprised that I was able to get back up there.
You were able to get back up there, and were able to show some speed at the end of the race, being able to take over what was a very well held second and first place. Well, a second place held by our pole sitter for most of the race, but what kind of things did you learn in this race that you might be able to carry over into the second race or the third race of the night for you guys that you're doing tonight? Given the fact that these are two different cars, what do you think you can do? And do you think you can take any of the knowledge that you took from the trucks from Bristol earlier this year and apply it to our main event tonight?
Well, the trucks, they seem to want to work a lot better on dirt. It almost feels like when you take these 87 cars down into the corners, it's almost like it leans a little bit too much on that right front and it digs that right front end into the dirt and it just pushes up the track. There's a lot more throttle control with these 87 cars than there was with the trucks as well. And it's almost like trying to drive a bus in the mud is about what it feels like. So I don't know but the only thing I can take from the last couple of races here is just how bad the track slicks off. And I'm kind of hoping once the track slicks off, it's going to help be able to kick that rear end out. Because with the sticky track, the car just wants to dig and push right up to the wall.
Michael, we're certainly looking forward to seeing what these 87 cars bring to the table. It'll be the first time I've ever seen an 87 car on a dirt track surface, so going to be a fun one to watch, I'm sure. Best of luck in that. Before you go, we're going to let you do some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
I just want to say thank you for Chris for putting this on and scheduling this on a night that I have off. So I can run it. He knows I like running dirt. I don't quite run as many official dirt races as I probably should, but it's just kind of something I just do when I'm fooling around. My fiance for sitting here and putting through all the bull crap and actually watching me every Tuesday night. So that's always real nice.
That's Michael Blanton. He finished his second place here with the super late models. We'll see if he can finish one position better later on here with the 87 cars. Best of luck there, Michael. We'll let you get to it.
Appreciate it, buddy.
And let's go down to Victory Lane, where Richard Carrow is standing by. $10 richer as he claims the cash prize here tonight for the super late models. Richard, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, hey, how we doing?
Oh man, talk about a last to first challenge. Didn't exactly start out the way you wanted, bringing out the first yellow flag, but then we saw you hard charge your way to the front. Once you got there, never looked back. So I gotta ask you, with this momentum, what's the confidence level climbing into the 87 car later on?
Well, I've had a pretty good dirt run so far tonight. fourth in the third street stock. Would have had a top 5 in the modifieds, but I got a little bit excited and rode the wall and got stuck in it. Nobody helped me get down. That was sort of sad, hurt my feelings. So I came back and hurt everybody else's feelings with the STC Racing late model there.
Yeah, and you certainly did put on a wicked drive at the end of the race. I honestly didn't think anybody had anything for Smith, but then all of a sudden, found that one magic groove and was able to get around him, and ever since then, you didn't look back. What's the key at this track at Eldora to get in front and stay in front? Because side-by-side battles seem like they take an eternity to try and figure out the correct line, and sometimes the line that you want to take, there's another car there, so you have to find your way around. But once you do get in the lead, what's the key to getting it out in front and opening up the gap?
Just making sure you don't spin your tires. I was like quarter throttle, half throttle that final run there. I just decided to take it easy on the throttle, and tires stayed together, and we ran them down and got the win.
So, Richard, we obviously know you guys had a space of time just before you guys climbed into the street stocks and the 358s, of course, here with the super late models as well, to be able to test the 87 car out there. So, is there anything from the events that ran here preliminary for the Rumble that you can apply when going out there in the 87 car, or is it just kind of an entity unto its own?
It's really just a beast of its own when it comes to the 87s on dirt. When it gets slick, though, it's going to be the same thing. Be light on the throttle. Don't spin the tires. Make sure you get the power down.
There's no doubt, Richard, that with this victory here tonight, you've kind of jumped up there on our list of ones to watch later on tonight for that main event. Best of luck to you, but before you go, we're going to let you do some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, just like to thank STC Racing, Carrow Race Designs, SRH Clothing, Sub Noise Records, and everybody out there watching. Let's go get them.
That's Richard Carrow. He's got
wait. Sorry, one more person. Well, actually, one more family. The Houndshell family. They introduced me to this league, and I actually used to race against Jason like 20 years ago up at Jennerstown Speedway in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. And we haven't talked till I found him on iRacing through G4's Facebook page.
Is Richard Carrow. He's your winner here tonight for the super late models. We'll see if he can double down with a win in the 87 series coming up momentarily. Best of luck to you, Richard.
Thank you.
That's going to conclude the coverage for the super late models. We're going to jump to a quick intermission, swap over as they're getting ready for qualifying heats for the 87 Cup Series main event here tonight. It's time to cap off the all-star race here with the Rumble at Eldora. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this brief intermission. welcome you back here to Eldora Speedway. Getting ready for the main event here this evening for the Rumble at Eldora. It's time to find out what the 87 cars are going to bring to the table here at this dirt track under the lights. Seth Cole, Anthony McCrae back here with you, coming off the heels of an exciting super late model race. It's time to get ready for the first of our two heats here tonight. We've got a consolation event that'll be coming up as well to determine the 15 drivers that will take part in our 100 lap main event later on tonight. Now, Anthony, so far, we know 6 drivers that definitely will take the green flag. Actually, I believe it's going to be 5 drivers, maybe only 4 drivers, that are officially going to be taking the green flag later on tonight. Cooper Johnson, Ryan Lutz, Christopher Morse Jr., Gerald Campbell, John Whitendorf, and Landon Huffman, our previous winners, all locked into the main event. Everybody else, though, trying to race their way in these heats. How much desperation is there going to be? Because it's only 15 laps for each heat.
What I'm gathering is, and this is coming late, I think that the consolation race has been waived off. I think everyone that competes are going to make it in. So with that little bit of stress that they don't have to have going forward, I think that you're going to see a lot of these drivers maybe let it hang out a little bit more than you think they would. Already we see a couple drivers not making the start of this heat race. Cooper Johnson, who's one of those drivers that showed some pace in the last race we ran, plus Dallas Myhan, who ended up facing the wrong direction a couple of times. He's not taking the start either. So it's really going to be up to these drivers if they want some extra seat time on these cars before they take the green flag in tonight's main event. And that's what these guys want. They really they want to have as much information on how to run these cars around this track as they possibly can, especially in a group like this. We're going to see just how familiar these guys can get with their machinery going forward. As it's only going to be a 15-lap race for these 2 heats. Got 100 laps they got to run later on.
Just join us here tonight for the 87 cars at Eldora. Drivers that finished top 3 in the super late model race we just had run moments ago. They are your top 3 for this first heat. The race winner, Richard Carrow, on the outside of the front row with Travis Smith, who finished 3rd. Michael Blanton, who was the runner-up in the super late model race, rolling off 3rd place with Seth Harrelson bringing up the final spot in 4th. Here we go into turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. Everybody keeping it straight for the time being. But look at how they're right up against the wall through these corners.
Yeah, slipping and sliding already of these drivers. Oh, wow. Looks like, oh, goodness. Looks like Travis Smith might have misjudged just how much his car was going to rotate. He ended up plowing into the wall, not really going anywhere. Now gets the car to rotate. But one driver that we've seen that we kind of thought that was going to be running up towards the front, and that's going to be the 43 tonight, not the 24 of Michael Blanton. Usually that machine is the 24 machine, but tonight running the 43 column. And tonight, we're seeing that since he stepped into the bigger machinery, the one that he's more familiar with, he's certainly showing the way, because right now, Smith is having a hard time trying to get up to him. Now's caught him. Can he get to the inside, or what can Smith do? He was the one that led the majority of the race of the super late models earlier on. Does that transfer over to the bigger cars?
Yeah, as we talked with him earlier on after his 3rd place run with the super late models, he said, he's run a number of different machines at dirt tracks. Not so much the 87 cars, but right now holding down the 2nd position, looking ahead at the 43 of Michael Blanton. And one thing I wanted to touch on that I'm even seeing here tonight as well, if you talk to any dirt track racer and you ask them what direction you turn the wheel to when you go into the corner, I guarantee you 9 out of 10 are going to tell them I turn it to the right. The counter steer, the old adage, turn right to go left. Not only here with the 87 cars we just saw on board there with Travis Smith, but also with the super late model cars, they're turning left to go into the corner, then counter steering through the center of the corner. And I don't know if that's just the way that the car is handling for them, or if that's just how to approach Eldora overall.
It might be a way to get the back end to rotate. One of the things that the drivers were talking about earlier on, back when we weren't interviewing any of them, was they were talking about how hard it is to get the cars to rotate through the turns. Normally, they're having to correct them even on the speedways. When we go on to the more traditional speedways, they're trying to correct for the oversteer that you guys that these guys get on a weekly basis. But tonight, seems like they're having problems getting the thing to turn at all, and that's why they're kind of backing off the throttle, whipping it to the left, and then countering it to the right just to keep the back end happy. certainly something that I didn't expect that we were going to see out of these cars, because normally you can't get them to go straight regardless of what you do.
No matter what track we've gone to, they've always really been very loose. We kind of attribute that to the very low spoiler on the back of these race cars, but it could be something that Travis Smith told us earlier on tonight, where Eldora seems to kind of be a sticky racetrack. You wait for the track to actually slick off, to lose its grip, so that way the back end will step out. That could be the issue for these drivers, not being able to have the back end step out for them, the fact that there's just so much grip in the track still.
And it's relatively flat compared to some of the other places that we've raced at on dirt. Not a whole lot of banking around Eldora, and especially around the outside line is where you kind of want to run to get the best momentum off a turn. As we've seen pretty much since the start of the green flag, everyone had migrated up to the top end of the racetrack. Now that comes with its dangers, as we've seen Blanton and company have maybe smacked the wall a few more times than they'd like to. That's just a bit of a learning curve. They got to know just how deep they can drive the car, how quickly around can they get before they hit the wall. And that's what these heat races have kind of turned into. It used to be a qualify your way into the main event race, but ever since that they waived off the contingency race, and they've made it so, or the consolation race, I should say, and they've made it so that everyone could get into the main event. These drivers using it as full testing opportunity, just trying to figure out how much can they push. And I think that's really important if you're these four that chose to take Heat 1 as that test bed.
I don't know what Travis Smith found, but he has closed up what was nearly a second gap back to Michael Blanton. Now he is on the back bumper with 3 laps to go, so we could be in for a doozy of a finish here in just the first qualifying heat.
He's been able to get up to the top of the racetrack. He ended up hitting the wall, though. He's been hitting the wall quite a bit. Not sure if that's because he's been driving it so hard into the turn, or he's been able to find some speed by hitting the wall. Certainly has lost some ground now as, whoa! Blanton got way sideways going down to the front straightaway, ended up going up into the wall, now gets back in front, but that could have ended in disaster for the 43 team.
And Smith couldn't capitalize, slid right behind the 43 of Michael Blanton and loses a ton of ground through 3 and 4. Michael Blanton will win the first heat, Travis Smith second, Richard Carrow in third, and Seth Harrelson, who ran into issues and had to come to pit road 3 laps ago, will finish fourth in this first heat. Cooper Johnson, Dallas Myhan did not take the green, and that sets us up for our second and what will be final heat race here tonight, putting Jake Hounshell on point alongside of the 26 of Tyler Riggs, a driver that we haven't seen for quite some time here in the 87 Cup Series.
Making his return into the 87 Series, looking to capitalize on a non-points paying race. This is kind of the one time that these drivers really get to show their stuff without any consequences. This is their all-star race, essentially, so nice to see them get out on the track and show what they can do. But Tyler Riggs put together a couple of good runs late in the season when he earlier in the season when he raced. Should see him do well tonight. He's got second place on the Heat 2, so have to see what kind of speed he can put together, as it looks like there's only going to be 4 cars taking this opportunity to get some extra seat time in these cars, as Gerald Campbell has opted not to run in the Heat 2 race.
And he gave you the front row. Jason Hounshell and Christopher Morse Jr. are going to be the second row, and those will be the 4 drivers to take the green flag here for this heat race. Now, obviously, as we saw with Michael Blanton winning the first heat race, he would subsequently, I would think, start on the pole for the 100-lap main event later on. These drivers here will be battling to see who will start on the outside of the front row as the grid is put together based off of their finishing positions in these 2 qualifying heats. Again, as Anthony pointed out, with there being only, looks like 11 drivers that are going to be taking part possibly in this all-star race, there will not be a consolation race here tonight. So as soon as the checkered flag waves here, these drivers will be getting prepped for the main event later on tonight. And you talked about this being a non-points event here tonight, Anthony, and certainly that is the case, and these drivers would love to take some bragging rights into the second half of the season for those that are battling for points here during the course of the schedule. But there's also a nice little cash prize on the line here tonight as well. The winner of the Rumble at Eldora will be $20 richer, so gives a little incentive for these drivers to try and be the first of that checkered flag later on tonight.
I wouldn't mind being $20 richer. So these drivers really looking forward to that extra $20 bill. You can go out and get a nice little dinner if you win tonight at Eldora. Right now, someone that wants to do that is Christopher Morse Jr. He's taking a very different approach to the inside or this racetrack. He's gone to the inside of the racetrack, which until now is the only time that I've seen an 87 car that close to the inside wall. As soon as I say that, he migrates to the outside line to try to find some speed as the inside line wasn't working out too well. And again, I think it was because the corner exit isn't there when you're on the inside line, or you can end up doing that, which is also equally bad.
Well, it almost was a slide job. He had the 51 of Jake Houndshell cleared, but Houndshell's going to battle back to the inside. Morse rides the wall through 3 and 4. They'll stay side by side, making contact to the line. You saw Tyler Riggs trying to capitalize as he ran the bottom of the racetrack, and look at this. Crossover after crossover between these two.
Yeah, this is a good show going on between these two drivers, and Morse trying to figure out where he can run on the racetrack, and Houndshell just trying to figure out where he can run, period, because he's all over the outside line. He's been able to now take the lead back, driving the 51 tonight as opposed to his regular numbers, so have to look out for him. But the same paint schemes. Right now, Christopher Morse Jr. in the 3 machine in the inside line, trying to get it as Houndshell hits the wall again. Contact was made, and he saved it, did Morse.
I have to love the choice of paint scheme for Christopher Morse here tonight. We know that he runs a lot of the old Dale Sr. throwbacks, but here tonight, a track and a race that's going to be chaotic, he's got the Tasmanian Devil on the hood of that machine.
That's incredible. I didn't even realize until a couple laps ago, but how fitting that you're going to kick up a dust storm and you got the King of Dust Storms on the front of your car, and I need to go watch some Looney Tunes because now I really want to watch Looney Tunes. But anyway, Jake Houndshell continuing to show the way. He's figured out how to run the outside line. We haven't seen as many drivers hit the outside wall as we did the last time around. So maybe I say that, and Riggs has made a fool of me. He's now rode the wall on the outside line. But these two at the front, they really haven't been on the wall that much.
Here's the thing I'm wondering, because remember, these drivers in the second heat are going out onto a racing surface that the Heat 1 drivers were just on, so the track's been rubbered in a little bit, and as I mentioned, these drivers waiting until the track gets slicked off. Is that the case? Are these Heat 2 drivers getting the benefit of a slicked off track, the back end of the car wanting to snap around the way they want it to at a normal dirt track, and that's why these drivers are in much closer proximity in the second heat race than they were back in the first?
It certainly does help the way that the track is kind of worn into the as the nights progressed. And we've had a few races run already tonight, so the track's already been able to get a little bit of wear into it, but certainly not to the extent that these guys would have liked to have had happen for these cars. And right now we're seeing the results of the earlier race when you get the heavier car, the much heavier machinery on the racetrack. It really does wear the track in a lot quicker as these cars couple thousand pounds heavier than our cars earlier this race. They don't produce as much downforce, so once you take that into consideration, as English is not my first language, they really do make the track a little bit more suitable to run. So absolutely, this is a result of seeing what the race could look like when we get about 30 laps into the race, and I think that's what these drivers have to just be patient about, is when the track wears in, then you can start battling, because it's 100 laps to the finish later tonight. Whoa, Morse hard in the wall.
And I'll guarantee you the drivers from the first heat, they are watching what's going on here, this back and forth racing between the 3 and the 51, and I guarantee you they are making mental notes of trying to figure out if their cars can do the same when we get to the main event. A lot of contact exchange there, and now Houndshell have it overcorrected up into the wall. Morse will go back to the point. 2 laps to go, and Houndshell might be out of it as he's going to lose second place to Tyler Riggs.
There's certainly going to be some suspension damage on the front end of that machine, and that's going to be a bit of a nail in the coffin for that 51 team, as now they're trying to just finish the race. Christopher Morse is going to be the survivor of heat number 2 as he comes around to take the white flag. One more lap around Eldora in heat 2 for the driver of the number 3 machine, and that is what you got to do in order to win this race. You got to survive.
We want to talk about two polar opposites. Dale Sr. drove this car back in the Daytona 500 in 2000. Morse Jr. in the dust of Eldora is going to win the second heat in that paint scheme, and he will subsequently start on the front row with our Heat 1 winner, Michael Blanton, for the 100-lap main event.
And that is going to set the field for what is going to be a chaotic all-star race here tonight, the Rumble as it were. And we got a lot of drivers, a lot of hungry drivers that are eager to get this win tonight. And I got to say, I can't wait to see what we have for our main event. But we got to set that race up. And these drivers, they know they got to take everything that they've learned and they got to apply it, and they got to do it for well over any distance that we've run tonight. 100 laps, a full 50 laps more than our previous race here, which have been the super late modified. So now what do? Do you change the strategy up? It's a completely different car, but do you change the strategy up any more this race than the last time, or do you go at it with the same kind of prowess that you do for the other 2 races that have been run tonight?
I mean, that's the real question, isn't it? Because obviously these drivers that were in the first heat race, they've got an idea of what this track's going to be like when it's gripped up. Second heat drivers did not get that opportunity. On the flip side, the second heat drivers, they got the chance to find out what the track and the racing is like when the track is slicked off. The drivers in Heat 1, they didn't get that benefit. So, obviously, I'm certain that the drivers in Heat 2, they were watching the first heat. They're taking mental notes, vice versa, from the drivers in the first heat watching the second heat. It's going to be interesting to see if they apply what they learned, because just seeing it from the hauler or, from the infield is entirely different from getting into the race car and replicating it.
Absolutely. It's easy to watch. Definitely not easy to replicate. So, have to watch and see. And the drivers that took part in these heat races, we saw a lot of them that didn't. We were supposed to have a total of 6 drivers in the first heat. We only had 4, same for the second heat. So knowing that there was a few drivers that opted not to run those heat races, they're going to be a full 15 laps less experienced than the ones that did run the heat. So how much will that affect the outcome of the races? A lot of questions that still need to be answered, but we'll have to figure out those answers shortly, as we still got a lot of racing to go. And if anything carries over, it's going to be kind of the same thing that we've seen all night long, where you got to run the high line until the track gets rubbered in, and then, only then, can you start battling with a bit of efficiency. But a lot of questions, Seth. But one question that is already answered is it's going to be a wild race.
No doubt about it. 100 laps in the All-Star race here tonight. The Rumble at Eldora, moments away from being run. We'll be bringing you that action momentarily. As we swap over to that session, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this commercial break as you're continuing to watch the Rumble at Eldora for the Vintage Clothing 87 Cup Series for G-Force on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom t-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized, we'll do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the, top quality shirts, inks and everything, hoodies, hats. hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. Just you can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold to where you can receive them and they're already labeled and tagged and bagged, ready to give out to your customer and stuff. So you can just call us and just tell us, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. And if we're going to put the car on there, it is 125 quantity minimum. If it's without the car, it's 60 quantity minimum. That's strictly on the racing stuff. If it's a business or something, if you race on Texas shirts, it's a little bit differently. You can call us. It just depends on your quantity and ink color. Everything is hand drawn. I mean, everything. We don't Photoshop anything onto a shirt or anything like that. Everything that we go through, everything is drawn, and which is the reason for the art fees. We do have several graphic artists that draw for us, and they're really good. So what we do is on any package that you do, we can mix and match. We can do any colors. You can do purple, red, blue, green, and do the rest black. It doesn't matter to us. With your design on there, we can do hoodies. We can do hoodies, long sleeve shirts, t-shirts, tank tops. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's almost limitless what you can do, and you can put all that together in that package to make that minimum requirements. They can call us 318-278-7191, or they can email us at bulletprooftees@yahoo.com, or they can go to the website bulletprooftees.com.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom t-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized, I mean, we'll do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the, top quality shirts, inks and everything, hoodies, hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. Just you can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold.
Welcome back here to the Rumble at Eldora All-Star Race for Season 2 of the G4 Sim Racing Vintage Clothing 87 Cup Series. 9 drivers set to take the green flag for 100 laps here at Eldora Speedway. If you're just joining us, I'm Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCrary. We've had a super late model race earlier on tonight. We just covered the qualifying heats for tonight's main event. Now it's time for these drivers to get to work, Anthony. The slipping and sliding, the somewhat maybe cars not turning early on for these drivers, and of course, the door banging that Eldora always seems to bring to the table.
Not only that, but man versus machine. We've seen these drivers wheel it around some of the fastest tracks in America so far, but we're taking it a bit, not really a slower pace, but just a bit of a different pace, as these are the first time we're going to see what these classic stock cars can do on dirt. These cars never really saw a dirt track. Going to be interesting to see what these 1987 stock cars can do. The high power, the low downforce, and you throw in the unpredictability that dirt throws at it. It's going to be a wild 100 laps.
These drivers going to get set to see who's going to be able to take the checkered flag, the $20 cash prize, and for a number of them who are running full-time this season, maybe the momentum into the second half of the schedule. Green flag in the air as Cooper Johnson's going to get us underway, our Daytona winner.
And so far, whoa, a little contact from the back end of Blanton. That's going to send him almost around. But he does get going the right direction. And now we got cars down the outside wall. That's going to be Campbell. And now the 00 of Houndshell starts spinning to the inside of the racetrack. But so far, still green.
Keeps it straight, keeps it green, at least for the time being. Christopher Morse Jr., who is the winner of our second qualifying heat, looks back to Michael Blanton, the winner of our first qualifying heat. So those two obviously proving to be some of the faster in the field. And right now they have broken away from Travis Smith in the 818, right now holding down the final podium position. As I run down the list here, all but Tyler Riggs took part in the super late model race that we covered earlier on tonight.
Yeah, and right now, Tyler Riggs showing that it doesn't necessarily need the extra seat time in those cars to be able to wheel around, although he is towards the back of the pack trying to find his way around. This is the first time that Riggs has really started a race in the 87 series in quite some time. I was looking back, and I don't actually remember when the last time he's made a start was, but in front of him, he almost got caught up in an incident between Cooper Johnson and Jake Houndshell.
Quite a save by both of those drivers as they were facing 45 degrees the wrong way. Were able to counter steer it back and keep it going. Battle now looks like it's going to be for that 6th position. That's where Tyler Riggs tries to jump to the outside of Cooper Johnson. Looks like he might complete that pass. Nice move by the 26, moving up to the 6th spot.
Notice how the night has progressed, seeing just how the track's gotten a lot different over time. It's kind of starting to get back into that packed down state where cars are plowing more than they're turning, but give that a couple more laps and we should see some drivers really get to flex their muscles and see what they can do. Right now, Blanton trying to get to the inside of our race leader, but so far not close enough as Christopher Morse Jr. gets out ahead and opens up quite a big gap going out of the out of turn 4 and now through what is turns 1 and 2 to open up the gap even more. Blanton trying the inside line as opposed to the outside line, not finding any ground, switches back to the outside to see if he can pick up some speed.
He's going to find the wall for his troubles, riding the wall quite a bit there through 3 and 4. It's going to maybe allow Travis Smith to start closing in, and Blanton can't even get off the wall going through 1 and 2. Continues to hammer the right side of his machine. He was riding the wall from 3 all the way over to turn 2. We got a spinner. That's Bo Carrow. Tyler Riggs comes to a stop to try and avoid hitting him, as I think that was Jake Houndshell that just snuck around the outside.
There's some heavy damage on the front end of the 42 machine. That must have been a pretty big shot that he took in order to get that much damage. That front end does not look like it's in any sense the healthiest, and I have to figure out what happened to him. I think I might have. Oh, I think the 31 of Campbell was spinning, and Carrow was just caught up in all of it.
Take a look and see what happened here. There is Campbell in the 31 machine, completely sideways. Gathers it back up, and Carrow was sliding into the corner, just running his own line. Wow, I'm not really sure how Tyler Riggs was able to get on the brakes as quickly as he did. Usually when you get on the brakes at a dirt track, those front tires don't really take to woe that machine down, but he was able to, and there you see the damage. Front bumper gone, and there's the rear bumper now. falling off the back of the 42 out of turn 2. So front bumper gone, rear bumper gone, but remember only one faster pair to work with. So it looks like Bo Carrow is going to bite the bullet and take his car that looks a little bit more at home in a demolition derby, try and ride it out a little bit here before he elects to take on that faster pair.
Only lap 11 out of 100, so not exactly a bad idea to keep the car or keep the faster pair in your pocket for later on in the race. However, he is going to be a lap down, so too is Tyler Riggs. So they will start on the inside line of these drivers. And back to the 87 rules, the lap down drivers will either start at the back of the pack or they'll start at the inside line. Looks like they're filing to the back of the pack to remain on a lap down. Pace truck peels into our pit lane, and we're about ready to go back. Green flag racing. Morse Jr. gets a good restart. To the inside, though, Michael Blanton not wasting any time. Does he try the crossover? He does. Makes contact. Morse into the wall. Still on the wall, but still in the lead.
Travis Smith right there in the same conversation as well. Those three send it into turn 3. Blanton sends it into the wall. Gerald Campbell as well as Cooper Johnson trying to make it a 5-man conversation for the top spot. Look at Smith way down in the bottom. Drifts it up about 4 grooves but can't make the pass for second place.
Travis Smith was a long-time leader in one of our races tonight. He led the majority of our super late models, but ended up getting passed at the last minute. Now trying to make his way back to the front, trying to get to the... And we do have a yellow. That would be Carrow again, it looks like.
I think the 00 of Jason Hounshell might have been the car that spun. Carrow on the brakes to avoid hitting him, so Jason Hounshell going to be the reason for the second yellow flag of the night, 15 laps into our main event.
And this might have... I think he got a little help from the 26 of Riggs that sent him around, and that's why we're under yellow.
Hounshell was running last car in the lead lap. Riggs was running first car 1 lap down. There's the contact between the two. And the tough thing about a dirt track is it's all about momentum, especially from the center of the corner off. You want to get the optimal straightaway speed. And so when a car is out of shape ahead of you, the instinct for dirt track racing is to mash the throttle, hope that you can get alongside that driver, capitalize on their mistake. And sometimes you both are running the same line, and I think that might have been what led to the contact between the 00 and the 26. But very light, minimal contact between those both. Very little damage sustained by either driver.
Yeah, that's a good thing about it already. But Carrow's got a lot of damage on that 42 car, so just trying to salvage his car and hope that it gets to the end of the race without anything major happening to it. But we're about ready to set them back to green already. Pace truck lights are off yet again. Second caution of the night, lap 16 out of 100, getting close to 25% of the way through the race. And already, no one has been able to really have anything for Christopher Morse Jr. Got to the lead and has a look back, although now Smith spinning at the start of the restart, and he's facing the wrong direction at the hands of the 31. Has got going back the right direction. Now the yellow flag flies.
Is going to come out immediately for the third time tonight. Travis Smith from the third starting position. Going to drop all the way back to 9th place after a restart miscue. And doesn't look like he got a lot of damage, if any, really, to that machine. We'll go back and take a look at what happened. Maybe some damage to the front end of his bright yellow and blue 818.
This is something that we saw earlier in the night, going back to that super late model race that we had. The start of that race was very similar to the restart here, and this time it was Campbell that didn't get the power down correctly and ended up nosing it into the right side of the 818. That sent him up into the wall. A little bit of contact on the wall, spun his car around 360, and only then is when the caution came out. Not really sure why the yellow came out. Didn't really was in the way of anybody and got going before anybody was able to catch him, but we're under caution nonetheless.
This second caution in a row, back-to-back yellow flags, is now going to put all 9 drivers back on the lead lap. The last caution put Tyler Riggs back on the lead lap, and Bo Carrow, our winner of the super late model race earlier on tonight, he's going to be back on the lead lap now. So all 9 drivers that took the green to start this race will take the green to continue it, and all on the lead lap. Looks like, according to my scoring here, that Gerald Campbell and Bo Carrow, however, 20 laps in, have already utilized their faster pairs. So now it's going to be a very nail-biting type 80 laps remaining for those two particular drivers.
And I want to think about maybe going to the back and riding around, staying on the lead lap as the restart comes out and Morse blinked out of the session, but then came back only to find that the 14 almost dipped to the inside wall, but everyone's got going the right direction. There's contact. The 00's around, still around. And now Scott going back the right direction. No yellow though for this one, and we stayed green, but that could have been worse than it was, but everyone gets out relatively unscathed.
Officials waiting to see what was going to happen in that situation. They all were able to get it going again before the race leaders entered into the vicinity, so we stay under the green flag. Gerald Campbell is knocking down that outside wall. He slammed the wall in turn 1. He hit it again there going into turn 3. That Back to the Future machine not happy right now.
Yeah, he does not want to damage that car any more than he already has, as he's taking a couple shots to the outside wall. And remember that old saying, these cars are driving terribly? Well, they certainly do look like
race lead spin by Christopher Morse Jr. He then reappears into Jake Houndshell. Look out oncoming traffic as Michael Blanton got a piece of it as well. Contact for the lead going wrong.
And now we're under yellow again. This time the leader, the reason why we're under caution, really does stand. You're really not safe no matter where you're at on the racetrack. Is even if you're miles ahead of everyone else, you're still susceptible to it. And I think this one, I think Blanton just got... Actually, I take back what I said. I think that Morse was going around and Blanton just ran into him.
If you notice, the entry for both of those drivers going into the corner, the 3 was definitely a lot more slideways. The 24 was much more pointed, which is going to translate into Michael Blanton carrying a lot more speed into the corner. So I think you're right. I think even if he hadn't hit him, Morse Jr. either would have nearly gone around or completely looped that thing around. So Michael Blanton just kind of taking advantage of the situation. But that's the thing about dirt track racing as well. When you go in on the top side, you are committed to that line all the way through the corner. You cannot change on a dime from top to bottom unless you bail out of the throttle a ton. Vice versa, you cannot change from the bottom to the top unless you want to full throttle that thing into the outside wall nose first. So when you make a commitment going into the corner on corner entry, that's pretty much the line you're going to be in when you come off the corner on corner exit.
A couple drivers hitting pit road, that being the 02 of Jake Houndshell and the 00 of Jason Houndshell. Looks like the 02 taking a faster pair. Looks like the 00 taking a faster pair as they've gotten their cars down and away. No tire change, no fuel. I don't think they really need to take on any tires or fuel in this entire race, so no sense to do that and lose the time. You would most definitely lose a lap to the leaders if that was the case. Speaking of the leader, the new leader is Michael Blanton. And remember back to the truck race that we had where we all thought that Michael Blanton was going to be one of the drivers to look out for when we went to Eldora. Now he's leading the way in that 24 machine. This is the only time that we've really seen him in the top 5, certainly in the lead of the race all season long. And it comes at a track that he's very familiar with. So nice to see Blanton put together a good run. Not for points, but there is cash on the line. So a little bit of extra motivation for this 2014.
And remember we were just talking about in that last run how Gerald Campbell had his hands full. Well, now he's up in second place, and he's right there on the back bumper of Michael Blanton. So all of a sudden, he has found something, and he's only about a car length off the bumper of that 24 machine.
Back to green flag racing we go, and already they're fanning out.
Oh, contact.
Lots of contact in the back. Still okay, is now on the outside line. Goes Tyler make that the inside line goes Riggs. Everyone hitting the wall on the outside of the racetrack, and everyone just trying to file back in line.
Just want to make sure you're live there, Anthony. I'm not certain if you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. 3 wide, and now the caution is out. It was 3 wide for third place, and looks like Michael Blanton, 24, who I believe was in the race lead. He's going to bring out this yellow flag. I didn't even see him spun around, but he's hit that inside wall pretty good.
And I was not live. Thank you for telling me that. I was watching.
As Mater says, no need to see where I'm going, just need to know where I've been.
Yeah, and I saw where a lot of people have been. Now I'm seeing where people are now, and it's not good. Blanton has definitely faced the wrong direction, and that, I believe, was just as a result of contact. Nothing more and nothing less.
Go all the way back here to the battle for the lead between himself and Campbell, because that's what kind of led to this. Campbell drives it in deep, gets into Michael Blanton. Blanton then goes down, gets the inside wall. Now, the caution is not out at this point in time. He's then going to bring that wounded machine down into turn 3. Let's see who it is that gets him. Is it the 14 of Cooper Johnson, maybe? Nope, it's the 818 that sideswipes him, and he noses it then into the inside wall. So it took a couple of corners for the 24 to finally spin around, but Michael Blanton involved in 2 separate incidents all in the same lap.
And that's not exactly where you want to be. And that's the second time tonight that we've seen the leader of the race have issues throughout the opening few laps. But we are well over a quarter of the way through the race, now working lap 33 out of 100. So if all you math guys out there, that's 1/3 of the way through the race now for this, and that's how fractions work. As so too has my math teacher told me back when I couldn't care less about math. Christopher Morse Jr. leading the way. Tyler Riggs is now the leader, and remember, Christopher Morse was involved in an earlier crash, now back in the lead, gets a good restart, and has left everyone in his wake. As now they got a battle for second place between Riggs and Smith.
Also are keeping track in the fast repairs count. Only 3 drivers yet to use their fast repairs, and they're your top 3 drivers. Morse Jr., Travis Smith, and Tyler Riggs, as Cooper Johnson and Michael Blanton took on their fast repair under this last caution. Tyler Riggs had his rear deck lid completely full of the 42 there, coming out of turn 4.
And they're continuing to battle. I think that Riggs might have gotten the wall again. He's gotten the wall out of turn 4. Make that turn 2. Everyone on the inside now. And look at how Blanton has been able to make a recovery already. 3 wide between him, Riggs, and Carrow. That could have ended up horribly, but they settle it out as there's contact in front of them.
That's for the lead. Oh, Michael Blanton's up and into the wall. Bo Carrow trying to get off of him. He's going to succeed in doing so. They're going to lose some track position as a result. Here's Cooper Johnson. Split the middle. Man, oh man, you could just barely fit a car through there, and he did.
How in the world are these guys continuing to run? There's no way that they've been able to keep these cars going in a relative straight line. We've said it all season long, and this isn't a points-paying race, but the standard still holds. These are amazing drivers in order to keep them from what looked like they were spinning 6 ways to Sunday.
Man having a tough time figuring out where to focus on the action. You had that battling back there. Oh, now there's contact. 0-2 of Houndshow has spun around. Huge hit for him. Believe that Bo Carrow might have gotten him, or Michael Blanton. But there was that battling from about 4th position on back between 4 or 5 different drivers. He also had a battle that was going on side by side for the lead. Chris Morse Jr. finally holding off Travis Smith for that position. But 6th caution of the night here at Eldora, as we're going to be about 40 laps in to the main event. Let's see if we can go back and see what happened to that 42 machine.
And I think, from what I've seen, he just got ran into by the 24. I don't think that the 24 knew that Houndshell had slowed down that much and just kept the power down and never lifted.
There it was going into the corner. Well, I think from what I'm looking at here, I think that maybe the 0-2 over-rotated a little bit there on the top side, because when he got back to the throttle, that thing looked like it was going to cross down to the inside line. 24 of Michael Blanton was already committed to his line. It's kind of the old adage at dirt tracks, everybody wanting the same piece of real estate.
Yeah, unfortunately, the fastest line of the track happens to be where another car is, and that ended up being... That was a visual representation, if you ever heard that saying, and now you know what that means. Yeah, once you get these cars going a direction, it's very hard to stop them from going that direction, and fortunately, that's just what happened. But so far, all 9 of the drivers that took the start are still running, which is a miracle in itself, considering that a lot of these cars look like they have been through a war zone and back. A couple fast repairs have been used amongst the drivers, but they only got 1, so don't want to be using those up too quickly. We are approaching halfway, though, so the drivers that took them earlier on still soldiering on. Green flag back out. Again, Morse able to get a good restart. Behind, Smith now finds his way into second place, but he's got a challenge on the inside line between Gerald Campbell, who's now trying to get the inside line to work.
And look at there, high, wide, and handsome rim riding through 1 and 2 was Michael Blanton. He's going to slip into the 3rd position, now tries to get a run on the top 2, so throw a blanket over your top 4, then it's side by side for 5th between Houndshell and Carroll.
I've been noticing a trend amongst these drivers. They are basically mirroring what everyone else is doing in front of them, and right now that's Morse. You notice that Morse went into the wall. Right there, you saw it again. Morse into the wall. Same with Smith. Same with Campbell. They're basically just following Morse. I don't think that these drivers are comfortable with knowing what lines to run, so they're just going based off the guy in front of them. And it's kind of the old adage is monkey see, monkey do. If you hit the wall, well, I guess I'm going up there with you. So you think that's maybe affecting some of the way that these drivers are trying to run, and certainly the battles that we're seeing are being affected by that, because they're not really been able to go anywhere based on the fact that they're just basically mirroring what the guy in front of them's doing.
And that's the art of dirt racing. You're trying to kind of either mirror or maybe better what the driver in front of you is doing. You are comparing yourself to the driver out your windshield. And it's really interesting because I've noticed the last couple of laps that these drivers, when they were behind the 3, if he went up into the wall, they went up into the wall. Now he's kind of lifting a little bit more for the entrance of the corner. They're doing the same. And so it definitely is a case of monkey see, monkey do for these drivers right now. A bit of comparison going to school. There you see right there, the 818 up into the wall, the 3 up into the wall, Michael Blanton trying to reel them in. This is about the most spaced out we've seen the field all night long here as well. So we've got little battles here and there. Look at that, the 818 kind of riding the wall around the outside, tried to swing around the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr., couldn't quite do it. This is a heck of a battle up here at the front, and again, just to let everybody know, we did have another driver take on his faster pair there. Yikes!
He saved it. Okay, we're so good. Continue your thought.
Tyler Riggs took on his faster pair there, so only 2 drivers have not used their faster pairs here tonight. Travis Smith in the lead, Christopher Morse Jr. in 2nd place. Everybody else has kind of made their bed. Whatever damage they get from here on out, they're going to have to deal with it to the checkered flag.
Right now, I don't think there's any car on the racetrack right now that doesn't have at least a little bit of damage in some form, as everyone's gotten a piece of the outside wall so far, and everyone's gotten a piece of each other so far. And remember, this is the updated damage model on these cars. Little shots like that will have rippling effects. It's like the butterfly effect. Something gets broken, and later on you might hit the wall again and something else more critical will get broken. Now we're seeing how these are really affecting the cars, but it's a dirt race. You really don't get to see as much as you would if it was a regular oval race when we're on asphalt or concrete or the like. And so far, it doesn't look like the 2 leaders are hurt in any sort. Travis Smith, again, we talked about how he led most of the race in the super late models. Right now, he's just trying to hold on to the lead of the race in the 87s. He's doing a great job so far, and he's a driver, I do believe, has not made a start in the regular season for the 87 series, and if he has, it's only been once. So showing that he's kind of found his way into this series, he might start racing a full time in the series, and if we see anything from him tonight, it could play a bit of a wild card in some of the races.
He's kind of one of those anomalies for us where we had no prior statistics on him, because you're correct, he has not, at least to my knowledge, made a start in G4 Sim Racing, either in the 87 Cup Series or in the Grand National Series that took place late last year, early this year. So, yeah, not a whole lot known about Travis Smith, except the fact that now we can establish he's a pretty good doggone dirt racer from what we saw in the super late model race earlier on tonight, as well as the heat race here, the qualifying heat race for the main event, and the main event here tonight for the Rumble at Eldora. Now, one thing that I'm wanting to look at here, just kind of touch on, is I don't think these drivers are doing it on purpose. I think it's just based on the way that these cars handle, but a lot of them are sliding into the corner right up to the outside wall, and it doesn't really look like that outside wall is stifling their momentum. If anything, it's kind of helping them to be able to get a little bit more speed through the corner. Now, I'm absolutely certain that there is a wall riding rule that you cannot just enter onto the wall into turn 1, ride it all the way through turn 2, but I gotta think that, if it comes down to the closing stages of a driver battling another driver for the race win, they're gonna send that thing into the corner and send it right up there into the wall to try and make that pass work for the race win. I'm not certain if maybe these guys are going to school right now, testing the waters of whether that move would work now, and then maybe apply it later on.
It's a bit of a dance, though, that they have to work around, because if they hit the wall too hard, they might end up knocking something loose. And again, this is the new damage model. You can't really keep doing that and have those results be the same. Although it's been working out so far for the top three. They've been able to hit the wall several times so far and able to keep the car healthy. As right now you see Blanton couldn't get off the wall, and I think that's some of what's going on here. They're not exactly meaning to be on the wall. It's just that these cars, they slide so much, and then you can't get off of it as Morse has gone around, and that's why you don't flirt with the outside wall.
Right into your living room as we were on board with Michael Blanton, the one that T-bones the 3 as he was facing 90 degrees the wrong way. Caution's going to fly for the 7th time here tonight. And I don't know about Travis Smith, but we now might be 8 for 9 in drivers having to utilize a faster pair, as Christopher Morse Jr. might be the latest victim to have to come down pit lane.
And that is bad news if you're Gerald Campbell or Michael Blanton. Blanton certainly got a lot of damage off of the contact he had with Christopher Morse Jr. Morse is going to have a lot of damage as a result of him hitting the wall. Don't know if it's critical enough that he needs to come down for a faster pair, and there's no way to know until they go back to green. We got ourselves into a pretty long green flag run and just mistimed it slightly, and that's the danger. You go up and get the wall. You saw he was running the outside. He got in the wall. That's not abnormal, but all the dirt, you've noticed that throughout the race, it's been building up. It's just been caking onto the inside of the wall out there. And eventually it's going to get caked up so much that you're going to hit a rough spot. It's going to send the car around. And I think that's what these drivers are starting to worry about. Morse just showed that it can happen. And when it happens, it's pretty disastrous.
Saw that front grille sitting out of the turn 4 exit. That was Michael Blanton's grille. He's come down pit lane, and he's gotten a little bit of damage repair done on his 24. Morse Jr. did not come down pit lane, so he and Travis Smith are still yet to hit pit lane. And, you know, it's interesting, too, because dirt racing, it's a complete 360 from what we usually talk about when these drivers go asphalt racing. Usually in the asphalt-type tracks, the track starts out slick, then it gets rubbered in and the grip starts to form for these drivers the longer the run goes on. Complete opposite here. The track starts out gripped and then it slicks off, gets looser. Well, very much like what we just saw there with Christopher Morse, at an asphalt track, the tires start out really cool and then they warm up as the run goes on. Here at a dirt track, they actually start out at prime temperature, and as the run goes on, they cool down, making the car slicker. That might have been why the 3 spun right there on that long green flag run, as green flag flies with 40 to go here at Eldora, and Campbell puts the pressure on Smith.
He does indeed try to get there, but now falls back behind. Can't quite get up there, although here comes Morse. Doesn't seem like that slowed down the 3 machine any at all. Look at who's on the inside line battling for 3rd place. Bo Carrow in the 42, and Tyler Riggs in the 26 has gone sideways, now facing backwards. Still green, not yellow yet. We continue to be under green as they get away.
Just exiting turn 4, the leaders were about midway down the back straightaway, so they will not enter into the vicinity of drivers still trying to get the cars refired. Man, look at how the 818 stepped out there out of turn 4, and Morse Jr. is there to capitalize. So too is Gerald Campbell.
He's trying to get to the inside line. Now they're starting to migrate to the inside line, now knowing that the outside and around the wall might not be the safest place to run anymore. Morse trying to figure out if the inside line is going to have any momentum, and we know that it does on corner entry, not so much on corner exit, although as of late, Christopher Morse has been able to make the inside line work both ends of the racetrack as they get to the walls. That slows momentum down ever so slightly on the way out. You can't really put the power down too much. Now we're seeing that if you dime in the corner, it might be better than running just around the outside line.
All 9 drivers still on the lead lap with 35 laps to go. Battle for the lead is less than half a second. Smith back to Christopher Morse Jr. Of course, Morse Jr. tonight here having some fun at Eldora, trying to pick up an all-star race victory. The defending champion of the series, but second in points heading to the second half of the schedule this year, trying to chase down the points leader John Whitendorf, looking to be a back-to-back champion.
And trying to really etch his name into the history books. This is, of course, only the second season that these guys have run, so really no chance for a multi-time champion up until this season. But if he was able to do that, he would be the only one so far in the G-Force League to do it, as he can't get off the wall right now. Trying to figure out a way to do it, but finally gets off the wall. And the one thing that Morse has over everyone else right now in the field is that he's the only one in this field right now that has been close to being the points leader. We saw that Gerald Campbell's in the field. He's running, I believe, second place in the point standings as they run. But John Whitendorf, the points leader, didn't make the start tonight. That means that Morse is going to have that little bit of edge over the points leader in the series, and there's contact, and they're still straight, although the 3 might have some wheel damage.
Yeah, he's definitely slow there. Now gets hit from behind by Michael Blanton, and Blanton's going to go up and over. That will certainly be a caution, as it will fly for the 8th time here tonight. A battle for, I believe that was 4th place at the time, and first time we've seen a car flip here tonight for the main event of the Rumble at Eldora.
And if you're Christopher Morse, you're thanking your lucky stars that the caution came out. That could have been easily going a lap down. Now, if you have the opportunity, you can come down and get your car a fast repair, where you've got about 30 laps to run in the race so far. So, wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to come down and get your car repaired. We don't know if there are going to be any more yellows to come, but if the racing gets hard, it might happen. I don't know. What do you do in this scenario? Do you come down and get a fast repair, or do you just nurse it around the track? Well, I think the question's already been answered, because here he comes.
Yeah, Campbell now coming down to the attention of his crew. Here's a look at what happened there. Flipping the 24 of Michael Blanton over, and that's really strange, because if you look at that incident in slow motion and you had to pick which was the car that was going to go up and over, my money would have been on the 3 machine, because he had the 24 into his door, which under normal circumstances will actually flip that car over to the left, and it was the 24 that actually flipped over. So, I talked about the fact that dirt tracks are completely polar opposite. Apparently they're polar opposite as well into which car probably should be the one doing the flipping, but I digress. It's going to be our 8th caution of the night. We're going to get a restart somewhere in the vicinity of 25 laps to go. And you talked about a driver thanking their lucky stars. Well, 2 other drivers that were very happy to see that caution were Tyler Riggs and Jason Hounshell, because Hounshell was about 3 car lengths away from being put a lap down, and Tyler Riggs wasn't all that far ahead of that either.
Yeah, they've both been involved in quite a few crashes tonight. In fact, a lot of these cars look like they've been through a demolition derby, especially the car starting on 2nd place for this restart. Bill Carrow was involved in one of the first cautions tonight, and somehow has found his way running in 2nd place. Not sure how. The guy that went over, the 24 that is, Michael Blanton, he's lining up in 3rd place, so it proves that you can take a spin and still keep going, as we're not going back yet. The pace lights were off, but then they turned them back on, so it's not going to green yet. But how about that? You can take a roll and keep going, as Michael Blanton has proved that you don't have to have your tires on the racetrack in order to keep your position.
Might have all depended on what the flip was like. I mean, normally here at a dirt track, the one part of the car you want to preserve is where the engine is housed, because you want to be able to get the power down, you want to be able to get that straightaway speed. The rest of the car is not out there to win a beauty contest. As long as your car is somewhat intact, you can take a wrecked-looking machine and still put it in victory lane. That's what dirt track racing's all about.
And he's gotten that car going back the right direction, and there's contact, and there's the outside wall, and they're still making contact, but they're still going the right direction. So, and there's more contact. In fact, you could just, that wall has been the most abused thing this entire race. We talk about the cars being abused, but can we give a shout out, a big F to the outside wall? I think it deserves a bit of a shout out tonight.
These drivers about 6 weeks ago were at Darlington, drivers getting the famed Darlington stripe. I think that here tonight we can make a new coinage of the Eldora stripe. Everybody's gone to the gift shop and gotten one of those.
Yeah, absolute madman that outside wall is. It's taking a shot and not talking about it. That's what you want from an outside wall. But Christopher Morse Jr. continuing to make his charge back through the field. He's into the wall again. Bo Carrow has been able to keep 3rd place position, although now that might change because of the healthy race car of Morse coming through, and there he goes, taking the position away. Now he sets his sights on the guy who flipped over earlier on, and that would be Michael Blanton running 2nd place, and Travis Smith has checked into a completely different state, as he's now about 2.2 seconds ahead of the aforementioned Michael Blanton.
Yeah, not to say that Travis Smith's car is not without damage. He's got a completely pancaked right side, but if you look back at the cautions we've had, the 8 in total, none of them have really involved Travis Smith. He's been able to keep that car relatively clean and out of trouble. He's the only driver in the field that has not come down pit road for a faster pair, and it's shown with this healthy track position he's got. Over 3 seconds back to the second place driver of Michael Blanton. With 20 laps to go, I think it's kind of safe to say, barring the mayhem of possible late race restarts, this is Travis Smith's main event to lose.
Yeah, if he can continue to run relatively fast pace, he doesn't really have to run on the ragged edge right now, because the fastest competitor to him would be Christopher Morse Jr., and he's still got to pass Michael Blanton, who has put together quite a bit of a run at the end of the race. He's been able to really stack up his ability to run this racetrack, and that was the thing that we kept mentioning about his dirt track abilities, and right now showing that he can really take it to the old dirt, says he's right now trying to stay in front of Morse Jr. Bo Carrow fall back to 4th, and Gerald Campbell rounds out the top 5, although he's in a bit of a battle right now with Cooper Johnson. These two can't figure out what's worse, pounding each other or pounding the outside wall. There goes the 14. And if you had told me that he couldn't have saved that car, then I would have told you otherwise. That was incredible.
Carrow knocked down the inside wall there going into turn 3. And with Cooper Johnson having his hands full, he's still able to hold on to that 5th position. Tyler Riggs going to slide into 6th. The gap has closed up a little bit. Oh, and it's going to close up a big bit now as the caution's out. Tyler Riggs with an issue. Looks like that might be off of turn 2.
I think that his front tires have locked up. Yeah, he's trying to figure out what to do. I think that he's had a bigger problem than just spinning it, and I think he looped it on his own.
Now spinning those rear tires, gets the thing refired, but not before the pace truck made its way around to put him a lap down. Let's go back and see what happened. I think Tyler was in league of his own, an area of his own. I don't think really there was anybody around him, and this was actually going into turn 1. Drifts it up the track, nose gets pointed but goes straight. He brushes the inside wall and then just loops the thing around, and it's almost like he couldn't put the thing in reverse.
He definitely looked like he was fumbling around with the gears, and then watch that his wheel snaps to the left, and then it gets stuck there. Almost to me like something happened with his apparatus, and he couldn't really figure out what to do, and by the time he got it going the right direction, he was definitely trying to find a gear. There was no question about it, but he also had some steering problems, so you maybe think his wheel might have disconnected.
Well, it's looking like he actually had to teleport his car back to pit road. Oh, yeah, you see right there. I think you hit the nail right on the head, because that thing, the wheels were pointed to the left, and that thing went straight going into turn 3. So I think there definitely might be some mechanical problems with his rig. And that's a tough break there for Tyler Riggs, who's now fallen 3 laps down. We had gotten about 80% into this race with all 9 drivers still competitive on the lead lap, and it looks like now we're going to be left with 8 still in the running, as we'll probably be going green this next time by if the lights are out atop the pace truck. Travis Smith, Michael Blanton in the front row, Morse Jr. and Gerald Campbell in row 2, then the Hound Shells, Jason on the inside, Jake on the outside of row 3, and then Bo Carrow, Cooper Johnson going to bring up the remainder of the field. And, you know, here tonight, it's all about bragging rights. It's all about that $20 purse. Next week, these drivers are going to have their hands full, though, as we begin the second half of the season chasing that championship at the legacy version of Texas Motor Speedway. And I think there's a lot of drivers here tonight. They're going to be very happy to leave the dirt behind and go back to asphalt.
Absolutely, and get back to some competition, some points-paying competition, because we got a big fight in the championship. But right now, we're back to green, and there's people hitting the outside wall again. Trying to hold on to it, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out too well for Smith as he gets caught into by the 24, although that really helped the 24. Blanton, look at, he's going to try to get a position away from Morse, but lost the back end of the car, can't quite do it as now he hits the outside wall yet again. That outside wall, a champion tonight.
Dropped from second back to fourth. Now tries to get around Gerald Campbell. Meanwhile, Christopher Morse Jr. is going to move up to second place. The old adversary of Travis Smith from back around the midway portion of this race before Morse ran into trouble. Campbell now trying to follow him up there as well. Blanton, you got a 4-horse race here at the front of the field, closing in on 10 laps to go.
And a lot of them are running that outside wall. In fact, looks like that Smith has gotten quite a bit of damage on that car as he lost a lot of momentum. Now trying to get it back. New leader would be Morse. There's contact between Blanton and Smith as Smith goes around to the inside of the racetrack and they're still stuck to each other. This could potentially brand a yellow, and it does as now Johnson gets involved.
Oncoming traffic as the 818 and the 24 both slid back up into the entrance of turn 1. Caution is going to fly for the 10th time tonight. We are now going to be below 10 laps remaining here tonight in the main event of the Rumble at Eldora. Let's go back and see what happened off of turn 4, right up there inside of the top 3.
It was hard battling between everyone for the first place position, and Blanton, it actually started when he made contact all the way back in turn 1. Made contact with Gerald Campbell. That sent his car shooting down to the inside line and almost corrected his car. He was able to put the power down and then slid way too far up the racetrack and got contact with the 818, and that's what hooked them together. It almost looks like they got demon drug up to the outside wall, and then Cooper Johnson just came sliding in and decided to give a little tap to the 24.
There's so many parts of Eldora that you don't even think about that actually play a factor into the outcome of a race. Travis Smith's race might have just been saved by a concrete curving that is down there on the front straightaway, kind of separating the track from the victory lane down there on the front stretch. When we saw the spin there, as soon as he hit the curbing, it kind of stifled the momentum of that spinning race car, lifted the left side tires off the ground, and it stopped him from hitting the inside wall. Subsequently, he didn't have to come to pit road, take on a faster pair, and he's rolling off on this restart from the 3rd position. So who would have thought that something as simple as a concrete curbing on the front straightaway could be a difference maker into our winner tonight?
And Eldora just has a lot of secrets that we don't know about yet. We've already seen a car get stuck in the catch fence earlier tonight with the super late models, and we didn't think that was possible. And then here we come, and now the track saves a driver from potential damage on his race car by almost damaging his race car. So, man, this track continues and will continue to prove that it's a bit of a curveball for these drivers. As we were talking about driver versus the cars, but it really should be versus the track too, because Eldora, it'll save you. It also seems like it's going to damage a lot of drivers, as again, Morse now doesn't look like he has a fresh car anymore as he took a fast repair. It definitely looks like it's been through a war zone again. Coming down to 5 laps to go, Seth. What does Eldora have in store? What do these drivers have in store? Green flag back in the air.
Back in the air as now Morse Jr. jumps up to the outside line to get the better entry into turn 1. Campbell's been really aggressive on these restarts. He's going to ride the wall. He'll shoot up the middle 3 wide with Travis Smith on the bottom. It's now going to be Morse versus Campbell going into turn 3.
And now to the inside, contact is made, still contact being made. Does Campbell lead for the first time tonight? Oh, we almost got turned by Morse, but he does lead the lap. Can he keep the lead of the race out on the inside wall? There's contact again. They're still beating on each other going through turn 2, but Morse has been able to keep it straight and keeps going.
How they both kept it straight, I don't know. Maybe give the assist to the outside wall. Campbell's not going away quietly. Rides the wall through 3 and 4. Back on the bumper of the 3, heading for turn 1. 3 laps to go here at Eldora.
Looks like Morse was trying to keep it off the wall. He doesn't want to damage his race car anymore. Still with the lead of the race, coming down to 2 laps to go. Campbell is taking a bit of an extreme line going through these turns. I don't know if he can able to get the turn down, and now he's got a lot of flapping parts coming off this right side of this car. 2 laps to go. Can Morse hold on from the charge of the 31?
It's going to be a case of bring home the trophy or bring home the steering wheel for these 2 drivers. They are knocking down that wall through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's going to be the white flag this time. Campbell again, up there on the outside wall, tries to get around to the top side. Will he be within striking distance of Morse? He's alongside him with the white flag out, and Campbell's going to loop it.
Campbell's gone around. Morse has gotten away. White flag is out. Doesn't matter. No caution. Now there's nobody behind the 3 to challenge him for the lead of the race. Christopher Morse Jr. comes into this race with all the bragging rights in the world, is going to leave this race with even more bragging rights. He wins the Rumble at Eldora.
Morse Jr. coming into this all-star race with a victory earlier on this season, the defending champion of the series, and add another thing to his resume as he's the winner of the Rumble here tonight at Eldora. Cooper Johnson just wiped out Michael Blanton as they both are going to finish second and third with the 24 second place, the 14 in third place. But Christopher Morse Jr., as soon as he disposed of the 31 of Gerald Campbell, the track kind of got blocked up behind, and Christopher Morse Jr., after taking the white flag, was able to scamper away with this victory. Now pulls it up there to victory circle on the front straightaway and gets to celebrate here tonight at Eldora Speedway.
He definitely figured out how to get around this track better than anybody else, and man, you couldn't have scripted that kind of finish. I thought for sure that Campbell was going to have a run, but he ended up getting spun the wrong direction, facing towards the wall, and you don't want to be high-fiving the outside wall straight on. That's something that we proved earlier was a kind of a no-no, but somehow, some way, Morse was able to keep it straight through all of that. Michael Blanton gets second place, and Cooper Johnson, isn't it something that we say all season long where Cooper Johnson just seems to find his way into the top 10 or the top 5? Well, again, he wasn't in anywhere close to the top 5, and he gets a podium. Who would have thought that Cooper Johnson was going to end up with a podium tonight?
Now, this is why at dirt track racing, you always stick around for the finish, because Travis Smith, once he got out in front, he was dominant. He had a couple of challenges from Morse Jr., but then when Morse Jr. had to take on a faster pair and fell back towards the rear of the field, it was really all the 818. He's going to bring that machine home in the 4th position. Undoubtedly one of the strongest cars of the night. Bo Carrow is going to bring it home inside the top 5 and 5th. Jake Hounshell and Gerald Campbell were the last two to finish out this race as Jason Hounshell finished 3 laps down. And Tyler Riggs, after some mechanical problems that we documented, he's going to be finishing 9th place here tonight. A small field for All-Star Race night, but I'll tell you what, a lot of times what I say, quality over quantity, and we had ourselves some quality dirt track racing here tonight. Exciting finish in the closing stages.
Yeah, that is true. Sometimes on a track like this, it might get a little too crowded if you have too many drivers on the racetrack. And I know that a lot of good drivers missed the start of tonight's race, maybe because it wasn't a points-paying race or whatever have you, but they certainly missed out on a show. These drivers that did make the start, all 9 of them, they proved that you can wheel these cars around and make everything work out as well as you thought they would. And we saw it telling all season, these cars look like they're on dirt, even at super speedways or short tracks, wherever these guys go, it looks like they're on dirt. And then you actually put them on dirt. This was a treat. This is something that I don't think that we're going to see in a long time, unless they decide to put these cars on dirt again sometime this season as a one-off. But man, Eldora, the 87s and the drivers, they put on one heck of a show. And Christopher Morse Jr., you mentioned he's the defending champion. He came in here kind of with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, saying that, yeah, I'm the defending champion. I got to make a good showing to let these guys know that I'm still in the game. I haven't lost anything that I had last season. Don't think that last season was a fluke. It's going to continue. And he's not the points leader, but he has made some good ground. I think that by the end of maybe not as soon as just past halfway, but he will have something for John Whitendorf and the other driver, Gerald Campbell, the other drivers of the top 5. He is going to have something for them as he is in the top 5 so far. It's going to be an exciting second half of the season, and I can't wait till we get to Atlanta. If the points are close, this is going to be one heck of a season finale when we get there.
You know how we kind of patented the Eldora stripe here tonight? Christopher Morse Jr., his victory earlier on this season was at Darlington, so I think he probably should buy some stock in tracks where knocking down the outside wall is kind of a patented thing, because he certainly has found success, it seems, at 2 tracks in particular, Darlington and here tonight at Eldora, albeit a non-points event here tonight, but also when you consider the fact as well, going down the home stretch needs that momentum. Look out, John Whitendorf, the defending champions, trying to go back-to-back. Let's see if we can talk with some of our top 3 finishers. Let's kick things off with our winner early on this season at the season opener at Daytona. 3rd place finisher here tonight, Cooper Johnson. Hey, Cooper, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Wow, I mean, A lot of questions coming into tonight of how these 87 cars were going to handle at Eldora. And we definitely got a first-hand account of just exactly how they handle here, maybe more so how they don't handle here. Seemed like everybody had their hands full, but you had a solid outing of third place here tonight. But talk about those 99 laps leading up to that finish.
I don't know if I should call that a great race or an awful race. I mean, it was just you try to make the corner and you literally can't make the corner without hitting the wall. And we're thankful that we had those two fast repairs because I lost what a surprise! I lost another tire about halfway through the race on one of the wrecks, and I mean, it was a cluster. It was a mess in many different ways. It was fun at certain points, getting to race certain guys. But other than that, I mean, it was a spectacle, to say the least, I'd say.
Certainly a spectacle. From up in the booth, at least. For fans watching the race, it was fantastic. But I know that a lot of you guys look like that you were struggling for grip out there. Did the track change over time? Because it certainly looked like it was a little bit harder to stay off the wall as the race went on, as opposed to earlier in the race. Towards the end of the race, everybody just gravitated to the outside wall. Nobody tried the inside line. So how did the track develop over time that led to a lot of the outside wall running?
Well, the problem with the setup was you couldn't do anything on the inside line. It was the way the gears were set up. It was so bogged down, and you had to keep her in third to kind of keep her straight. I mean, we had a couple of guys try second, but you really had to really pedal the throttle. But I tried the inside line a couple of times just because there's just fresh dirt down there and it's not so slick, and maybe you could try and find something but just because the cars were so bogged down by the time you got into the corner, and when you go to hit the gas, it just doesn't want to go. And so you almost had no other choice but to slam the wall. And it kind of sucked because, at the beginning of the race, you can maybe just like barely hit the wall. But then once you got about halfway through, it was almost like you had to hit the wall, like really hit the wall in order to keep yourself going straight and keeping yourself fast. In some ways, I kind of felt like that was a little bit disappointing. The fact that the only way we could really keep fast was hitting the wall, I kind of found that to be, I wish the setup was designed a little bit better to where, you could kind of really hit the rev limiter, because if you had tried fourth, it was undrivable at that point. But the track, it was, like I said earlier, it went from barely touching the wall to slamming the wall is pretty much what happened.
All right, Cooper, let's swap gears here and look towards the start of the second half of the season. Next week, you guys are going to be heading to Legacy, Texas. Obviously, we know that these cars are very, very loose, that low spoiler, and of course, the Legacy tracks are kind of lacking in terms of grips. So what's the mentality heading into that track, beginning off the second half of the season, going into the second half in a very good position, third in points, 133 points back?
I'm pretty excited for the second half of the season. We're starting off at Texas, which is one of my favorite tracks. I love going there. I do love the newer configuration a little bit more. I'm one of the rare people that actually like the newer configuration more than the old configuration, but the older one I like just as much as any other mile and a half. I'm a big mile and a half guy, so I'm excited for next week. But over the last couple weeks, I think like I said to you guys last week, I just feel like I have a lot more momentum going on my side. We've had a lot more better finishes. The team itself has kind of felt a little bit better about the tracks that we've been going to, and next week we feel pretty confident about that track. So I'm confident I can start to scratch and claw into this lead. I know John, he's not going to have nearly as many good finishes as he's had as of late. He's going to run into some trouble at some point, and it's just about capitalizing on those mistakes and continuously just being consistent, like I try to do every single week.
Cooper, as Anthony commented, even here tonight, we end up seeing you run around mid-pack, and then eventually you figure something out and pop up there into the top 5, or in this case, the top 3 in the closing stages, and we look forward to continuing to see you do that during this home stretch down the second half of the schedule. We're going to be heading a couple weeks to Daytona, a track you're very familiar with, the Victory Lane, the season opener, so looking forward to seeing if you can double down there. Before we let you go, we're going to let you have the microphone, do some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
I want to obviously thank you guys. I know it was an interesting race to probably sit down and watch, and an interesting night overall. But obviously, thank you guys always for putting on a great broadcast. Thank you to Hank. I know he couldn't be here tonight. He had to miss the race, unfortunately, but he'll still be in the points running, considering that this is a non-points race. Huge shout out to him for being the team owner and represented CRM the best we could tonight. Thanks to the Juicebox podcast for supporting me. I put together a new scheme that I'll probably be running for most of the rest of the year, and I hope that they enjoy the performances I put on for them. And overall, looking forward to Texas next week.
That's Cooper Johnson. He's third place here tonight in the Rumble at Eldora main event here for the G-Force Hijinx Clothing Vintage Cup Series. Congratulations there, Cooper, and best of luck next week at Texas.
All right, thanks, boys.
Let's see if we can get second place finisher Michael Blanton. Kind of ironic that our top two finishers in the two qualifying heat races were your top two finishers here tonight. Michael Blanton won the first heat, and he's your runner-up here this evening at Eldora. Hey, Michael, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth again. You got us?
Yeah, I got you, buddy.
And, I mean, we saw you finish second place in that super late model race earlier on tonight. Second place here in the 87 cars. We know that you had to take a faster pair late in this one, kind of put you mired back in traffic. You'd been up there maybe on the front row for that final restart. Did you have anything for the three?
I think if I would have been up there on that front row, I definitely would have had something for him. Me and Chris, we race a lot together throughout the week, and we actually do a lot of the testing together on these setups each and every week. And I think I could have probably got them if I didn't have to get around a few of the cars that I did on that last restart, but it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, we saw a lot of beating and banging tonight, and the wild side wall seemed like to be the savior of everybody. But how did your race progress over the night? We saw that you got some damage earlier in the race, and then it kind of just escalated from there with a little bit more damage, a little bit more damage. But at the end of the race, your car seemed to have some good pace. So how did the race progress for you over the night?
Yeah, my car had a lot of damage. For this race, we actually had 2 fast repairs instead of just one, and I actually used both of them. And it was really, really tight at the very beginning when the track was still real sticky and tacky. And then when it got loose, I could kind of somewhat keep it off the wall in 1 and 2, but 3 and 4, it was near about impossible. I tried everything. I tried to lift early, just let the car float in there, and I just could not keep it off that wall at all. And there was just no speed on the bottom at all. So in order to go somewhere, you had to run up top. And I know I probably ran over a few people, but it's so hard to control these cars on the dirt. I can't even explain to you how hard it is.
You mentioned about having the 2 faster pairs here tonight, and we know that there's this new damage model as well for the 87 cars. Usually when you go to a dirt track, normally you expect that car to come home with some damage in some way, shape, or form, but with having those 2 faster pairs, at what point do you make the determination, this car has too much damage, I gotta get this thing back to 100%, or do you then make the determination, no, I think this thing can still run 100% capacity even though it wouldn't win a beauty contest?
As long as I didn't go nose first into the wall, I wasn't going to take my fast repair. The 2 fast repairs that I took were the 2 times that I went nose first pretty hard into the inside wall, and that's when I decided to take them. As long as I was just beating the right side off, I really wasn't too much concerned about it. It didn't seem to lose a whole lot of speed. With the damage on the right side, I just couldn't afford to lose any engine damage or horsepower. So, if you took any nose damage or hard nose damage, that's probably when you wanted to use them.
Well, Michael, a great run for you here tonight. Second place, not only here in this one, but also in the one we covered earlier with the super late models. It's a lot of fun to watch you wheel these cars around a dirt track. Congratulations on a great performance. Of course, best of luck to you as well down the second half of this regular season as well, starting things off next week at Texas. I know that we had you in here earlier, but we're going to turn the microphone over to you again for some more thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank my fiance for sitting here and watching the race. Chris for putting it on. I'm actually, I guess you can say, technically a part-time driver now. With my job that I got now, I'm only available to race every other week, so I'm actually going to miss next week. But I could not miss this dirt. I love to run on dirt. I've heard y'all mention it several times throughout the broadcast. About me and dirt, and I could not miss a dirt race at all. I enjoy it, but I will be ready and be back for in 2 weeks after Texas. I'll see y'all in about 2 weeks.
It's Michael Blanton, runner-up here tonight in the Rumble at Eldora. Congratulations once again there on a great performance overall here tonight, Eldora, Michael, and yet look forward to seeing you at Daytona.
Yeah, man.
And let's finally go down to Victory Lane and talk with tonight's race winner, still celebrating in Eldora Victory Lane, Christopher Morse Jr. Yes, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you guys.
Oh man, you made Tasmanian Devil proud here tonight. The Dirt Devil, I guess we'll call it here this evening at Eldora, putting that machine in Victory Lane. But it was looking like the race was going really well for you. You worked your way up to second, had some good battles there with the 818. But then next thing we know, you had to come down pit road, take on a faster pair, and we're back in traffic. So just how much different is it being out there, and I'll put this in air quotes, clean air, as opposed to being back in traffic with the chaos we saw here tonight?
Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. You know, when the race went green, I got out in front, and I was like, all right, I think I got a good control of it. I don't really see anybody that's really keeping pace, and then people kind of figured out the wall, and you can gain a few tenths to a second and a half on that, depending on how you hit it. So, yeah, once I got back there, it's just, I mean, the big difference is you can't really go to the bottom and pass until the top gets really worn out. And then even once the top gets really worn out, I mean, it's hard to pass at the bottom of Eldora, period. And if I could explain how much weight is in the right front of these cars and how hard it is to actually get the thing to break loose and make it around these corners without hitting the wall, I would. But there's really just no way to explain it. So I think you guys got a good look at it tonight. As far as being behind people, you just had to be patient. You had to realize that you couldn't really go into the corner full bore the way you wanted to. You had to be really careful with slide jobs because people would hook you without even trying. I mean, these cars are tanks, so you can beat them up pretty good, but if you end up T-boning the outside wall, that's no good for it. So just had to be patient. And then honestly, about halfway through the race, it seemed like the gloves came off for just about everybody. So I decided to take mine off.
Notice you started using the old iron horn a little bit more at the end of the race in your car. You came down and got a faster pair at the opportune time. We thought that there was going to be a lot of beating and banging on, but you were able to save a faster pair for later in the race when it really mattered the most. How were you able to really time that? Was that all premeditated, or was there a little bit of biting nails trying to figure out what you were going to have at the end of the race?
Well, again, so these cars are tanks. I mean, we see it every week. They're not quite as durable now with the new damage model. Obviously, the tires fall off, and I think the motors blow a little bit easier when you hit something head on with them, which, you know, we're all going to have to get a little accustomed to. But as far as the faster pairs tonight went, I mean, unless you lost a wheel, they were really just to keep your car looking pretty. There was no amount of damage on this car you were going to get that was going to slow it down. There's no aerodynamics to this. The way the cars are geared to actually get them to kick out and to sit on the right rear spring and to get around the corner the way we had to set it up. I mean, you could probably sacrifice a few horsepower and not really lose any time. If you did lose time, you can downshift a second. So you got some options. I was in the back and I said, well, you know, nobody can really see Taz anymore, so let's clean him off.
I mean, Chris, obviously, with an all-star race, different drivers have different mentalities going into one, no matter what the venue is. Some drivers go in there just to have some fun, knowing that there's no points and no championship on the line at that point in time. Other drivers, they want to go out there, of course, and win that prize. And then other drivers, they want to carry some good momentum into the second half of the season. Obviously, you are by no means out of this championship battle down the home stretch, the second half of the regular season, heading down towards that season finale at Atlanta. The defending champion of the series. Was tonight a statement victory for you, saying, hey, don't be giving that championship to the 33 just yet. I might be looking to go back-to-back.
Yes and no. It was a statement victory in the sense that, I don't know if you guys remember the Bristol truck race, but I told you guys before that race started, I am no good on dirt. I can't even get around the damn track. I was probably going to end up upside down. And as you saw in the race, I think I was in the top 3 for like half a second. I was pretty much in the back half of the field, the rest of it trying to hang on. Since then, I put a lot of work into dirt. Ran a lot of official races, did a lot of testing, a lot of practice in a lot of different cars, spent a lot of time on this track making the setup work with our sponsor, Zach Onson. And we finally got it to kind of rotate. And I just, I really wanted to come out here and win the race, yeah, but I just kind of wanted to show that, hey, if we're going to do dirt stuff, there's, hey, here I am, look out. And as far as going towards the championship, I mean, we're not going to race on dirt anymore this season, certainly not for points. The whole field wasn't here tonight, so it's not like, going out and winning like whoever's going to win next week in Texas. Obviously, not as much competition and all that, so I don't really look at it as carrying momentum into next week. If anything, I just look at it as not having any more bad luck. We won Darlington, and then we had 3 DNFs in a row, a couple top 5s, and the blue motor last week. So it's nice to finish one of these.
Well, certainly a statement win, to be sure, here tonight for you, Chris. Congratulations on the victory, and you put a heck of a show on there in the closing stages, working your way up there to the lead and trying to hold off that 24 and that 818, as well as the 31 in your rearview mirror. Congratulations on the victory. Best of luck down the second half of the season, and we're going to now give you the opportunity for some thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to shout out Zach Onson. Call him Rowdy. He owns Hijinx Motorsports. Thank him for sponsoring the series. Thank him for putting in a lot of hours this week, helping me build this car. I don't know very much about dirt, especially setting cars up. I know a little bit about setting the 87 cars up, but he put a lot of work in this week getting this thing set up so it looked somewhat tamed and not completely out of line. Thank you to Brave Rifle. Man, it was an interesting race. I hope you guys had a lot of fun, especially the guys watching. We meant to have a little bit more or a bigger field tonight. It's an all-star race, so the small field was kind of expected, but we didn't quite plan to have 9 cars. So I hope you guys had fun. Hopefully we put on a show.
Oh, looked like in our comments section, people really enjoyed that race, really enjoyed that finish, and we certainly enjoyed up here in the booth. So thanks for putting on a great show for us. Congrats on the victory, and best of luck next week at Texas.
Thank you guys, and hey, if you're watching and this is your first glimpse at it, just be aware. This was a one-off. This was just a little bit of fun. It was a tense first half of the season. We wanted to let these guys blow off a little steam. Next week in Texas, it's gonna be a serious race. I expect it to be a good one. These D-shaped mile and a halves in these cars produce good races. Our league seems to produce good, clean green flag racing there. And like you guys said, the championship is heating up. So stay tuned, and hopefully you guys watch next week.
That's Christopher Morse Jr. He puts the Tasmanian Devil in victory lane here tonight at Eldora, winning the Rumble here this evening, the All-Star race for the G-Force Vintage Cup Series. Congratulations, Chris. Once again, best of luck next week at Texas. Maybe we'll see you pick up win number 2 on the year.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for putting on a great broadcast. It was fun to watch.
Well, the dust finally settles, literally, here tonight at Eldora Speedway. Christopher Morse Jr., your winner here tonight in the All-Star race. And as he said, Anthony, it's an opportunity for drivers to kind of blow off a little bit of steam and then take a deep breath, look towards Texas next week, go right back to work, because championship is on the line now down this home stretch, and there's still quite a number of races and race tracks that kind of jump out at you down this home stretch that drivers were not at last season's schedule, and of course kind of question marks on how the 87 cars are going to handle at those particular tracks as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to go back to a bit of normalcy for these guys, because now they do have to focus on the championship, which is pretty close amongst the top 3 of them, but it's still a long season to go. We talked about how Christopher Morse talked about how this race was a bit of a one-off race in order to have these guys a little bit more, relaxed in a sense, although what was happening on the racetrack looked anything from a walk in the park. But a bit of a chance for these drivers to really get to just let it all hang out. But now we go back to work, and we got some tracks coming up that aren't exactly going to be the easiest for these drivers to go back to. Got Texas coming up. We've got Daytona again, which we saw earlier on this season. Daytona was one of those tracks where it really did have some big implications on the beginning of the championship. We go to our second road course at Watkins Glen, the only place that they've been to already last season that was the penultimate race in the season. Then we go to Michigan, the first time on a 2-mile D-shape oval, and then back to Bristol. So, it's getting to that point in the season where you got to be consistent, especially for John Whitendorf, Christopher Morse, Gerald Campbell, for all those guys in the top of the food chain, so to say. They have to go back into game mode because the season's coming down to a close sooner than we think. We only have a handful of races left after Texas, so it's really down to crunch time.
And again, as well, just to remind people that with this being the 87 Cup Series, they run off of the old point system. So a driver that comes into the second half of the season in the triple digits deficit behind the points leader isn't necessarily out of the championship hunt. There's still quite a number of races in the second half of the schedule to be run. A lot of ground can easily be made up. So I'm looking at some of these guys that have gone to victory lane, like Ryan Lutz. I mean, he's the only driver so far this season back at Atlanta that holds a D-shaped mile-and-a-half victory. We're going to Texas next week. Cooper Johnson, of course, 133 points back, but he's the defending winner at Daytona that we're going to in 2 weeks. So you can't count these guys like Johnson, Campbell, Steinmiller, and Jake Hounshell. Those are 2 drivers that are still looking for their first trip to victory lane, but they've been consistent up in the top 8 in the point standing. So these are guys that you still have to keep in the forefront of your mind, forefront of your focus down this home stretch that could make a late season charge for the championship by the time we get to Atlanta.
Indeed so, and when we get to Atlanta, that's when it all hangs out. These drivers are their bread and butter for a lot of them are the mile-and-a-half D shape. So having the season finale being at a mile-and-a-half D shape, it could favor some drivers who might be in a position to take the championship over somebody else. But a lot of questions still to answer. But one question we've already answered: Eldora, if it was a points-paying race, would have been a major wild card for these drivers, but thankfully for some of them it wasn't, because it could have been a friendship ender tonight as some of these drivers were beating and banging.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, a lot of question marks coming to this race, a lot of anticipation, wanting to know what 87 cars could do on a dirt-covered short track. A lot of those questions answered here tonight, and maybe some answers to questions we didn't even know were questions. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they end up bringing Eldora back maybe in Season 3 of the Vintage Clothing Cup Series for the All-Star Race, or if they go to a different venue. But I'll tell you what, I'd like to see a couple more dirt tracks maybe on the schedule next season, because that was a lot of fun to watch up here in the booth. Maybe not as much fun for the drivers out there on the track, but it certainly put on one heck of a show. These drivers here tonight climbed into street stocks, 358 modified, super late models, and then eventually the 87 Cup cars. So a full night of racing here tonight at the Eldora Speedway. These drivers put the helmets back on, go back to work for points-paying races next week at Texas Motor Speedway. Anthony, it's been a wild one here tonight. Appreciate you joining me in the booth. It was a blast.
It's always fun to do these races, and I love watching dirt tracks, and I agree with you. I think that they should come and do some a little bit more of these, but again, for one-offs, fantastic, and I'm so glad we got to call the race with you.
If you guys enjoyed our coverage here tonight as well, thank you for joining us. Join us tomorrow night as we're going to be bringing you Pole Day qualifying for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series presented by HyperX Season 3 Indy 500. We're going to be bringing you the closing stages of that qualifying to set up for the main event, the Indy 500, which will be running this Saturday. Green flag scheduled to fly at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before that, Friday night, we're going to bring you the beginning of the playoffs for Backfire Sim Racing, as they're going to take the green flag for the first race of their championship run at Chicagoland Speedway. Green flag to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that one. For Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Coldvote. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here tonight. with the Rumble at Eldora. We'll see you guys next week at Texas Motor Speedway to continue on the season here for the G-Force Vintage Cup Series. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.